Here's another Rumpole. This one is Rumpole and the Right to Privacy by John Mortimer. Rumpole leaves the Old Bailey to defend an editor of a local newspaper who is accused of breaching a successful businessman's right to privacy.
Rumpole and the Right to Privacy by John Mortimer, with Timothy West as Horace Rumpole and Prunella Scales as his wife, Hilda.
Please, Rumpole, don't whistle at breakfast.
Oh, sorry, Hilda. I just feel unexpectedly cheerful. It must be the smell of the toast.
I'm trying to read my newspaper.
Don't let me stop you.
Full of people's private lives.
It usually is.
There's no one, Rumpole, to be allowed to lead a private life anymore. I told them at my bridge club they just won't leave anyone alone. Everything has to get into the papers.
You mean we're to expect headlines in the tabloids? Hilda Rumpole bids 4 hearts, full story in the Sun?
I know you like to make a joke of everything, but things are getting serious when I'm actually rung up by a journalist. He wanted to know all about you, Rumpole.
Really? What did he want to know?
All about the life of a well-known criminal barrister. What you did in your spare time, for instance.
Did you tell him that I spent my evening enjoying recreational drugs in the company of lap dancers?
Certainly not. I said it was absolutely no business of his, and you didn't want anything written about you in the papers. You don't, do you, Rumpole?
Didn't I? I had, I'm afraid, felt a little thrill of pleasure as she who must uttered the words well-known criminal barrister. It was not, of course, entirely unexpected. Since several recent successful cases, my fame had spread far beyond Equity Court and the Old Bailey, so I would not have objected forcefully to a well-written profile in some respectable broadsheet, headlined The Great Defender, no doubt with a photograph or mercifully drawn caricature. I could imagine the frisson of jealousy at the next Chambers meeting, tinged with gratitude for what I'd done for the image of the Old Bailey hack.
Rumpole, you don't want anything written about you in the papers, do you?
Well, it would rather depend on how it was done.
It wouldn't depend on that at all, Rumpole. There are no circumstances in which I'd allow journalists into our mansion flat to sneer at our furniture, make fun of our knickknacks. Privacy is sacred, Rumpole. I'm sure you agree.
Up to a point is what I might have said. But to save time and for the avoidance of controversy, I kept it to... You're quite right, Hilda.
Of course I'm right. I told this journalist, aren't there enough wars and natural disasters without you having to come worrying us for something to put in your paper?
So, not being a war or natural disaster, I reconciled myself to the status of a member of the newspaper-buying public who never gets profiled or caricatured or mentioned unless he becomes involved in a salacious scandal or features as the victim of a violent crime. These thoughts were uppermost in my mind at that moment, not only because of what Hilda told me, but because I'd become involved in a case about the denial of human rights and the protection of the privacy of a very rich man indeed.
You do invasion of privacy cases, don't you, Mr. Rumpole?
Invasion of privacy? Yes, of course. It's my daily bread, if you'll pardon the expression. I was speaking with my client, Mr. Rankin, editor of a local paper, the Chivering Argus. He was a small, bird-like man, with bright eyes and a head cocked to one side, who sat up very straight, with his arms folded, as though he'd just fluttered down and alighted on the edge of the chair opposite. Well, now, whose privacy have you been invading?
Sir Mike Smedley. You'll know about him, of course.
No, I'm afraid I've never heard of the fellow.
Oh, he's born of a poor family in Birmingham, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, started in second-hand cars. Then he decided more people needed sleep than needed cars, so he started Smedley's Slumberwell Beds. He promised nights of pure delight. He made a fortune. So he moved out of Birmingham and bought a country house in Chivering.
I understand from your solicitor that you never really got on with him, did you, Mr. Rankin?
He wanted to buy our little local paper, and he got quite angry when I refused to sell. He tried to bribe me with more money and threatened to close us down.
I think I remember him now. Wasn't he the fellow who said schools should teach life skills and not Shakespeare? Sounds to me like someone who ought to have his privacy invaded.
Thank you, Mr. Rumpole. That's just the view we took.
Which part of his privacy did you invade, exactly?
Oh, a photograph of Sir Mike in a fairly compromising position appeared in the Argus, Mr. Rumpole. They're asking for huge damages, enough to bankrupt the paper.
And your motive for publishing the offending photograph?
We wanted to embarrass him. I'll freely admit that. Our way of getting our own back, so our readers could have a laugh at Sir High and Mighty Mike, the local celebrity who thinks everything's for sale.
You're saying you published the photograph just to get a laugh?
Yes, but with a brassy air on his head. I mean, can you imagine what the chap at the stock exchange would say?
I can.
Yes,
I was beginning to get the message. The editor was going to prove a highly unsatisfactory witness. His sense of humour seemed to have come out of some long-defunct boys' comic.
Yeah, I mean, just a jolly jape, you see, Mr. Rumpole, and then bish-bash-bosh, we landed with this writ.
You say your nephew took the photograph?
Young Jim. He'd gone to the Caribbean in his gap year after school, and Sir Mike had a holiday home in St. Lucia.
Of course, I'd have expected nothing less.
Jim was working in the Sugar and Spice Bar when the great big cheese himself took the whole place over for a party with his chums.
A private party. You do realise he'd made the management sign a contract. No photographs, no press, no divulging of the guest list.
Well,
yes. They had agreed to complete confidentiality.
Well, of course, no one realised Jim knew all about Sir Mike. Jim was interested in taking pictures of wildlife on the island, so he had his camera with him.
So he was all prepared to photograph the wildlife in the Sugar and Spice Bar.
He thought it was a great wheeze, and he managed it very cleverly. Of course, it was quite late, and the party had been going on some time, and they'd all had a skinful.
And young Jim, apart from his talent for snapping local fauna, did he know that the management had signed a contract, no photographs allowed?
Oh, he knew that, but he did it as a prank. He knew how much his picture would delight his old uncle.
And as a prank, his old uncle published this picture in the paper.
You've got it, Mr. Rumpole. How could I resist the temptation?
I really don't know. But if you could have, you might have saved yourself an action for breach of confidentiality, invasion of privacy, and all the trimmings.
Yeah. But have a look at the photograph. I mean, look, here he is. Look, I mean, they're totally unsuspecting. Look at that. You see, I mean, can you imagine all these chaps in the financial...
Mr. Rankin handed me the photograph. Sir Michael Smedley, the great business tycoon, was a large, beefy-looking individual with his hair brushed forward as though surrounding a monk's tonsure. He was grinning happily and strutting in some sort of celebratory dance, clearly enjoying his private party. His dancing partner, whom I took to be a darkly beautiful local girl, was dancing with much finger-snapping and flashing of white teeth. She was naked from the waist up, and her sizable brassiere, in that golden moment immortalized by young Jim's camera, was draped about Sir Michael Smedley's ears.
It's a good joke, you have to admit, Mr. Rumpole.
Perhaps, but not the sort of joke your average tycoon wants his friends and neighbours to laugh at over their breakfast table. The bird-like editor had not long gone when my room in chambers was visited by Claude Erskine Brown, hopeless advocate and great opera lover, married to Phillida, once my pupil and the Portia of our chambers, now a scarlet and ermine High Court judge. He came alone and palely loitering, and, as ever, in some sort of trouble of an amorous nature.
Rumpole, I hear you're doing an invasion of privacy case.
Invasion of privacy, breach of confidence, outrageous infringement of human rights? Yes, Claude. That's the sort of practice I carry on these days. I've left the petty larcenies and the public bar affrays to Old Bailey hacks like you.
Yes, but in fact, I'm very much afraid that my confidence is about to be seriously invaded.
Oh, then you come to the right chap. Take a seat. Tell me who's invaded you.
Mercy Grandison.
Who's Mercy Grandison?
Rumpole, I can't believe it. You don't know who Mercy Grandison is?
Afraid not.
Don't you watch Shopping Mall on the telly?
Never.
She's the one who owns the boutique, whose marriage with Barry from the sock shop broke up and who's now having a terrible time with Bertrand from the Bienvenue Bistro.
Well, it's enormously interesting, Claude, but how does any of that threaten your privacy?
Shopping Mall doesn't, but Mercy Grandison does.
An actress?
And author. That's the terrible thing, Rumpole. She's got a book coming out next month. It's been advertised in the Telegraph.
A history of shopping?
Unfortunately not. It's her life story. A wandering star. How Mercy Grandison, born Mary Grimes, fourth daughter of a Wisbech plumber, rose to become Queen of the Soaps. In this touching memoir, Mercy reveals the heartbreaks behind the glitter of show business.
So what are you worrying about?
She reveals the heartbreaks, Rumpole.
What's that got to do with you? There was a pause, during which a certain amount of wrestling for the soul of Erskine Brown seemed to be taking place. When the struggle was over, he allowed himself to speak.
Oh, I'd better confess to you, Rumpole.
Well, you probably should if you want my advice.
It was years ago. I'd gone up to Grimsby to do a lengthy fraud.
Well, that's forgivable.
And one evening, I went to the theatre, the local rep. I went to see Private Lives by Noel Coward. A young girl in a white dress came out on a moonlit balcony.
In Grimsby?
No, the south of France.
Oh.
I was totally knocked out, Rumpole. Stunned, I suppose. I made a complete fool of myself. I waited for her at the stage door. We went out for supper every night for the rest of the week. In the end, I asked her back to the hotel.
Oh, dear Claude. You know, you really are rather sweet.
I'm telling you all this because I need your help desperately. She told me she thought I was rather sweet.
There's no accounting for taste, is what I might have said, but I didn't. Instead, I asked, so what happened exactly?
It happened.
It?
Yes, it. I have to tell you, Rumpole, it was one of the most important things in my life. The next morning we said goodbye on Grimsby Station, but I still think about it.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Claude. Darling Claude. I'll never forget you.
When there's nothing in court and Philly's away on circuit, or when life seems completely uneventful, I think about her, Rumpole. I get a great deal of quiet pleasure from thinking about Mercy.
Darling Claude, I'll never forget you.
And I'm very sure you'll do the same.
I take it you met her from time to time after your night of passion?
Never again, Rumpole, not ever.
So it was a last goodbye?
I'll never forget it. On Grimsby Station. You see, I just got married to Philly. It was a long time ago, of course, before we had the children.
And your wife, the learned judge, knows nothing about it?
Nothing, Rumpole. She's going to find out when Mercy's book is serialized in the Daily Post, which Philly demolishes every morning at breakfast.
And you don't think she'll be best pleased?
Oh, she'll bring it up every time we have an argument. She'll tell me she can never trust me again. She'll never let me forget it.
Well, naturally, when you parted on Grimsby Station...
Yes, tell me. Give me your opinion.
You obviously asked Mercy to sign a solemn undertaking promising never verbally or in writing or by any form of technical communication which might be invented in the future to divulge to anyone the events which had occurred between you and the soap star in that Grimsby hotel.
Well,
Well, no doubt you had such a document prepared. Did you get her to sign it in front of witnesses?
Don't be ridiculous, Rumpole. Of course I didn't.
Well, then I'm afraid your legal position is distinctly dicey. Not to put too fine a point on it, Claude, I would say you were up shit creek and deprived of a paddle. No case of breach of confidence. Look here. Are you sure she's written about it? Have you read it?
Well, it's not out yet, I told you. But of course she's written about Grimsby. It was one of the greatest moments of our lives. Do you think I'd be right to tell Philly? Should I warn her?
As we lawyers say, don't jump before you get to the stile. The world is full of nervous husbands leaping about in level fields thinking that they've got to clear obstructions which aren't actually there.
Oh, dear.
I suppose it might be possible, to keep the story in question out of Dame Phillida's paper.
Oh, Rumpole, would you do that for me? As my legal adviser, would you try? They'll listen to you now you're briefed in the great Sir Mike's privacy case.
Mm-hmm. Who steals my purse, steals trash. 'Tis something, nothing. But he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him, and makes me poor indeed. The words of Iago had brought me to the door of Pomeroy's, and as I stepped up to it, there was a small flash of light in the surrounding dampness, and I saw a girl with red hair, wearing a blue anorak, point a camera in my direction. I moved rapidly towards my first glass of Chateau Thames Embankment, and thought no more about it. I had taken my bottle of just tolerable claret to a table in the corner of Pomeroy's when I saw Liz Probert downing a vodka in the company of Mervyn Lockwood, QC, a tall, languid human rights barrister who refused on principle to appear for landlords, police officers and employers. He gave Liz a light kiss on the forehead and glided off. When he'd gone, Liz joined me with a heavy sigh.
Isn't Mervyn elegant? Isn't he a wonderful barrister?
Well, if that's your idea of being a wonderful barrister. He's not an old taxicab like me, more like a hired car only available to travel on certain routes for a certain class of person.
Oh, do you think so?
Do you have any secrets you want to keep hidden, Liz?
Why do you say that?
Well, don't worry, most people have, one way or another.
You found out.
Found out what?
You promise you won't tell Mervyn?
Well, no, of course not, if you don't want me to.
It's just that... Well, I had these old Labour parents. They went on ban the bomb marches. They spent nights outside the South African embassy singing We Shall Overcome. Mm-hmm. It's natural to revolt when you're young. You must have felt that too, Rumpole.
Well, I think I felt like revolting all my life.
Oh, there you are then, you see. But mine was a one-off, an act of immature defiance. I'm ashamed of it. I really am.
What is it you're ashamed of? Remind me.
I joined the Conservative Association.
Oh, dear.
It was only for a term. Then I came to my senses. Oh, Rumpole, give me your solemn promise you won't tell Mervyn.
I promise, solemnly.
Thank you, Rumpole.
Liz planted a kiss, which landed slightly to the left of my nose. Looking up from this experience, I saw the red-haired girl in the anorak standing at the bar and looking across at us with considerable interest. Next morning I had a call which took me to the chambers of Hugo Winterton, leading counsel for Sir Michael Smedley and the appointed protector of his privacy.
Bit of a change for you, isn't it, Rumpole? Civilized litigation in the law courts after the rough and tumble of the Old Bailey.
If you call it civilized, hopping about with some girl's brassiere round your ear.
He was relaxing, Rumpole. I expect you relax when you're on holiday, don't you?
Not by prancing around in my wife Hilda's underwear.
Now, look here, Rumpole. No need for a prolonged fight about this, now is there? I'm sure we could find a fairly painless way out between us.
What was wrong with Hugo Winterton was that there was nothing wrong with him. He was good-looking, middle-aged, a QC who lived a life of impeccable good taste. He slid towards me a mother-of-pearl box containing small cigars. Oh, okay.
Please, do light up. I've absolutely no objection in the world to smoking.
Mm-hmm. Was I being led into some ambush? Probably. However, I couldn't resist the temptation, and I sent a small smoke ring hovering over Hugo Winterton's elegant head.
Naturally, Mike was very upset when that little local paper published the picture. All right, he was making a bit of a fool of himself. We've all got to let our hair down sometimes. What he doesn't want is to have the picture popping up in every blessed newspaper. So, he's got to appear to win this case.
Appear to?
Afraid so. And win so convincingly, it's going to scare off all the other members of our sex-starved, scandal-loving press. So there's got to be an order for a large amount of damages.
How large?
Well, we were thinking in terms of $500,000, just as a warning to others.
Well, I'd better be going. Thanks for the cheroot.
No, wait a minute. Just between ourselves. I believe I could persuade Mike not to enforce the order. I doubt if either the editor or his paper have got the money. Your client will only pay his costs. But, of course, Mike would want some permanent editorial control over the Argus.
You mean he wants to take it over?
Just to ensure it doesn't make any more unprovoked attacks on him.
And that it will advertise his beds.
That might be part of it, of course.
And this order for $500,000 damages?
That would stay in the background.
To be enforced at any time if my client doesn't give Sir Mike exactly what he wants.
Well, it's a possibility, of course. We'd hope it wouldn't come to that.
Well, I'll put it to the editor, but he's a pretty tough sort of character. I'm not sure he'd agree to being in Sir Mike's pocket for the indefinite future.
Do your best with him, my dear old fellow. We don't want to have to waste our time preparing for a fight, do we?
I'm not too worried about that. Perhaps I should have revealed to him that I was on my way to an interview which would be entitled, when it was published, Rumpole the Great Defender. About a week before, to my surprise, and I have to say my delight, I had been rung up by a Gervase Johnson for the Daily Fortress, who wanted to write an article on Rumpole the Great Defender. Better still, the interview was to take place in the expensive Myrtle restaurant, where Mr. Johnson's little tape recorder was found not to work.
Right. 1, 2, 3, testing. Oh, no good. We'll have to go back to the old pencil and notebook. Now, I think what our readers will be interested in, Mr. Rumpole, is how a busy barrister unwinds. You're living on your nerves, aren't you? Will you give us an insight into your private life?
Certainly.
Well, that's very generous of you. I know some people don't like talking about that sort of thing.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
Oh, good for you. Now, carry on, Mr. Rumpole.
When the day's work is done...
And you feel the need to relax completely?
Exactly. I get myself down to Pomeroy's wine bar and put away, let's say, half a bottle of Pomeroy's very ordinary red.
You're a lucky man, Mr. Rumpole.
You think so?
Indeed. The story is you were seen being kissed by a particularly attractive young lady in that particular wine bar.
How do you know that?
Oh, we've been making a few inquiries. We had a photographer out after you. Material for the article.
The young lady in question was my colleague. I'd given her a piece of helpful advice for which she was grateful.
I'm sure she was. I suppose you're not going to tell me how you spent the rest of the evening?
Certainly. I went back to my flat at the Gloucester Road. I had supper with my wife in the kitchen. A chop, I think. And baked jam roll. We watched the 10 o'clock news and went to bed early. That is my private life. There is your story. Make what you like of it.
I'm afraid, my dear Mr. Rumpole, it seems we'll be able to make very little of it.
I'm not Sir Mike Smedley. I don't need to sue anyone for writing about how I spend my evenings.
Ah, yes, Sir Michael. You're going to have a tough time cross-examining him.
I don't know. Perhaps I'll think of something. He must have a weak spot, a chink in his armour.
Everyone's tried to find one. Apparently he's as clean as a whistle. The tabloids tried to pin something on him when he landed that contract for NHS bed.
Oh, yes, there was a suggestion he'd done a deal with Lord Hindle, wasn't there, the health minister, in return for a huge secret subsidy to party coffers. Wasn't that the story?
Yes, the story collapsed before it hit the presses. Sir Michael didn't even have to sue for damages. He told me all about it when I interviewed him. The truth was, he said, he'd never even met Lord Hindle. Never even been in the same room with him, let alone spoken to him.
And, of course, Sir Michael's not the sort to fraternise with politicians.
no more than any other wealthy, successful businessman, I should think, Mr. Rumpole.
Claude Erskine-Brown came into my room, just as I was trying, with diminishing success, to think of a reasonable defence in the case of Smedley versus the Chivering Arcus.
Thank you for your advice, Rumpole. I'm so glad I didn't take it.
Which advice was that, Erskine-Brown?
You asked me not to tell Philly about Mercy the actress. You said I shouldn't jump before I got to the stile. Well, I jumped, Rumpole. I leapt high up in the air, and it's been a huge success. She doesn't mind at all.
You told her about Grimsby?
I did. And she said she'd read Mercy's book with interest. She was truly glad I'd had such a romantic past. Quite frankly, she said, before this, she'd never have believed me capable of a great passion.
Oh, well, that's fine, then.
Yes. And by the way, Philly's trying that case of yours.
Oh.
She says she thinks it's absolutely terrible that your newspaper chap should have published pictures of Sir Michael Smedley at a private party. She's a great admirer of Sir Michael's achievement as a self-made man. She tells me she's going to give you a rough ride.
Thank you for those words of warning, Erskine-Brown. Most kind.
Forewarned is forearmed, Rumpole.
I had, of course, told Rankin, the editor, about Hugo Winterton's offer. I explained that the order for heavy damages wouldn't be enforced, provided that he didn't do anything else to annoy the great Sir Michael Smedley, and asked what our answer should be.
Tell him, Mr. Rumpole, to save his breath to cool his porridge.
All right, then, we go on. And on we went, into the law courts in the Strand. Mrs. Justice Erskine-Brown was trying the case alone and without a jury. I do wish I could have thought of a reasonable defence. However, there I was, standing up in the unfamiliar atmosphere of Queen's Bench Court No. 4. Beside me, Ms. Liz Probert, who was acting as my junior, was ready with her notebook, expectantly waiting for me to lure the witness into a dangerous admission. Sir Michael, are you thoroughly ashamed of what you did that evening at the Sugar and Spice Bar in St. Lucia?
No, Mr. Rumpole, I'm not at all ashamed.
You were capering around with a topless dancer, wearing her brassiere as earmuffs.
That is what the picture shows, yes.
And you're not in the least ashamed of having done that?
It was all good, clean fun. It was in the spirit of the party.
Was it? Were many of your guests wearing articles of underwear on their heads?
Not that I noticed.
Sir Michael's answer, not my question, got a smile from the judge and a ripple of laughter from his legal team. If they had been, you'd have seen nothing wrong with it.
Harmless fun, Mr. Rumpole.
I think Sir Michael has already made that clear, Mr. Rumpole.
Yes, my lady, but he hasn't told us this. If it was all just clean fun and nothing to be ashamed of, what's wrong with everyone who happens to read the Chivering Argus enjoying the photograph?
It was my private party.
Well, even if it was, why on earth have you trundled out this great legal sledgehammer to crack this perfectly harmless little photograph?
Some people, Mr. Rumpole, value their privacy.
I suppose you'll be grateful to accept the answer her ladyship has offered you.
I do value my privacy, yes.
Well, let's see how much you really value it. You've given many interviews to various papers with a great deal of information about yourself.
When it was appropriate.
You found it appropriate when you had to deal with intimate details of your private life, didn't you?
Mr. Rumpole, is that a relevant question?
If your ladyship will listen patiently, the relevance will become obvious.
Very well, Mr. Rumpole. You may proceed.
Thank you. When your first marriage ended, did you give an interview to the Daily Post, printed under the headline, "Heartbreak When I Broke Up with Danielle"?
No, I didn't write the headline, Mr. Rumpole.
No, I know you didn't. But you did say this. Sexually, I believe Danielle and I were perfectly suited. She left because she found the lifestyle of the lead singer of a rock band suited her tastes more than the quiet and secure home life I had provided. Did you say that for publication in a tabloid with a huge circulation?
I may have said something like it.
Something very like it. And then we get How I Found True Happiness with Susan. Susan was your second wife.
She was, yes.
Sadly, 4 or 5 years later, we get another interview. Money and worldly success are no compensation for a broken heart. Did you give that interview?
I think so, yes.
Well, I can only wish you better luck third time round.
I don't see what my marriages have to do with this case.
I have to say, Mr. Rumpole, neither do I.
Then let me enlighten both you and her ladyship. You are trying to get enormous damages, a huge sum of money.
Mr. Rumpole, the amount of damages will be for me to decide. Perhaps tomorrow morning you'll make clear to us just what your defence to the charge of invasion of privacy is. Very well, then. 10:30 tomorrow.
Please be upstanding.
Liz, just remind me, what's a defence to a charge of invasion of privacy?
Usually the public interest.
Public interest? How can I get some of that? When I got home to the mansion flat, the television was on, and a small gnome-like man with close-cut hair and the shadow of a beard was being interviewed. He had my full attention when I heard his name.
Lord Hindle, do you believe in party funding through taxation?
It was Lord Hindle, the one-time party chairman, and now Minister of Health.
I don't think that's what the public wants. We have our supporters giving anything from £500,000 because they're people committed to us. They believe in
Do
our
turn him off, Rumpole. I'm trying to write to Dodo McIntosh, and he's driving me mad.
She who must often used me as her remote control. I duly turned off the sound. Deprived of his voice, his lordship was only a face, but a face I was sure I'd seen somewhere else quite recently. I ran through a long gallery of faces, many of villains, some of respectable citizens, before I suddenly remembered. So I dusted off the old magnifying glass we kept in the drawer of the writing desk and carried out some further search. Then I dialed the home number of Gervase Johnson.
Who on earth are you trying to telephone, Rumpole?
Gervase Johnson, the journalist who wrote my profile for the Fortress.
They never used that profile, did they, Rumpole? I suppose you're just not really in the public interest, are you?
Oh, hello, it's Rumpole.
Hello, Mr. Rumpole. I'm sorry they never used that profile of yours for the Fortress.
No, never mind about my private life. My private life's not the point at the moment. It's the private lives of other people. Now, are you at home?
Certainly am.
Good. I'll come round and see you. I need your help desperately, old darling, and I'm afraid it's going to take some time.
Right you are, Mr. Rumpole.
It did. But I have to say that Gervase, once the situation was explained to him, joined me with enthusiasm. We travelled together to the Fortress offices in Canary Wharf, searched files, got help from the picture desk, and ate bacon and eggs in the all-night canteen. I was lucky to have found in Gervase an old-fashioned journalist, one who was genuinely excited by the idea of discovering the truth. Next morning, I was in the kind of cheerful frame of mind which often prompts me to sing old music-hall songs at breakfast. I hadn't been married for a month or so, when underneath her thumb went Jim. Isn't it a pity that the likes of her should marry with the likes of him?
Quiet, Rumpole. What on earth are you singing for?
I'm singing because I think I might be in the public interest at last.
Mr. Rumpole, I hope you'll deal with the issue of breach of confidence today.
I certainly will, my lady. Sir Michael, can you help me? Your holiday in St. Lucia was a year ago last January.
That's right.
No doubt you went there to get a glimpse of the sun.
Well, we didn't expect to get much of it over here in January, so yes, Mr. Rumpole.
Indeed. And in the following month, your firm won the contract to supply a massive quantity of new beds to National Health hospitals.
We did indeed. And production is going very well. In fact, I'm delighted to say we're ahead of schedule.
Oh, good. There were rumours going round that you got that contract because you gave a massive but unrecorded amount of money to government funds.
There are always those sorts of rumours when there's a big contract.
We need evidence, not mere rumours, Mr. Rumpole.
That is exactly what I mean to provide, Your Ladyship. Sir Michael, it was suggested that you fixed the deal up with Lord Hindle, party treasurer and trusted political adviser to the government.
I've already stated that there's not a word of truth in that suggestion.
Not a word of truth.
You went further than that, didn't you? You stated that you'd never even met Lord Hindle.
I may have said something like that.
Well, you said exactly that, didn't you? For the first time, the witness looked uncomfortable. He hesitated, looked for help to Hugo Winterton, who was staring with great interest at the ceiling.
I can't be expected to remember everything I said a year ago.
Well, then, let me help you. Do you remember giving an interview to Gervase Johnson for a profile in the Daily Fortress?
Yes, I remember that.
Well, then perhaps you'll listen to what you said on that occasion. I held Gervase's unreliable instrument in my hand, its red light glowing. In it was the tape he had found of the Smedley interview. I pressed a button. The machine was silent.
Shake it,
whispered Gervase, who was sitting behind me. I did. Still silent.
Hit it then, but not too hard.
I gave the antique device a brisk slap, and it spoke out at last to the court. We heard Gervase's question.
Well, that's all very well, but it's been suggested you did a deal with Lord Hindle and made a big contribution to the party.
No, I've never met Lord Hindle or spoken to him. I had no connection with him whatever before the contract.
That's your voice?
Seems to be.
And it's your voice telling a thumping lie?
Of course it's not a lie.
Is that your answer?
I've already told you that.
Very well. Let's come, if we can, to the night of the party at the Sugar and Spice Bar.
It was my private party.
Exactly. For your friends.
For people I'd invited, yes.
Just take another look at the photograph, will you, Sir Michael? I take it that was your table. You're dancing near it with your headdress, and there's an empty seat.
That was my table, yes.
Just have a look at the other people at your table.
Difficult to see in the shadows.
Just try it. Not too difficult, is it? Can you make out a small man at the table, a man with close-cut hair and the dark shadow of a beard?
You mean next to the tall blonde lady, Mr. Rumpole?
Phillida had got out her magnifying glass and was studying the photograph with interest. That's the one. Your ladyship has it.
Not sure who that is.
Well, then, let me help you. We hadn't wasted our time in the picture department of the fortress. Gervase had got them to blow up the photo of Lord Hindle among the group watching Sir Michael's dance of joy with the brazier.
It's like him, I agree.
It is him, I'm afraid you've got to agree. So, now we know what this case is all about. You don't care who sees you dancing about festooned with underwear, but you didn't want anyone to see that you're a liar who met the party treasurer and no doubt paid him your money and got your contract. That's what we're all here for, isn't it? We're going through this legal farce to protect another bit of political sleaze. Isn't that the truth of the matter? Dame Phillida looked long and hard at the witness, and then turned away from him, as though she could no longer stand the sight of him.
Mr. Rumpole, I take it you are alleging that it's in the public's interest that this photograph should be published, to disclose what may have been an improper agreement about a government contract.
Your ladyship puts it so much more clearly than I could have done.
And I take it you're asking for an adjournment, so you can amend your pleadings to cover these new allegations?
Your ladyship is quite right. That's exactly what I'm asking for.
Court adjourned.
The adjournment turned out to be very short. Hugo Winterton approached me in the corridor.
Rumpole, now look here. It is no good our going on with this. You're only getting further and further up Ship Creek. I'm going to tell the judge that out of respect to an old established family newspaper, we're calling the whole thing off. And, of course, we'll have to pay your costs.
That suits me very well. You tell Dame Phillida that. She's an admirer of Sir Michael Smedley's. She'll be sorry to see him go.
Not so sorry, I think, after his performance this morning. I expect you'll be glad to return to the Old Bailey, won't you?
Away from this almighty sleaze? Yes. It'll be nice to get back to a bit of ordinary, decent crime.
Quite right.
When I got back to my room, I found Claude Erskine Brown slumped in my client's chair. He spoke in a voice of doom.
Oh, Claude, what's up?
Sometimes I can't understand Phillida.
The learned judge is subject to sudden mood swings. So what's happened now?
She's absolutely furious about Mercy Grandison's book. It's come out, you know. She sent her clerk out to buy a copy. She said she wanted to read about my great passion.
And now she's cross about what Mercy wrote.
No, she's cross about what Mercy didn't write.
Well, go on, tell me, what didn't Mercy write?
She wrote nothing about me, Rumpole.
Nothing, Claude?
Absolutely nothing. She dealt with her days in the Grimsby Rep in considerable detail, but there was no mention of my name, even, and certainly not of the great experience, which has remained with me all my life.
Well, it's possible, isn't it, that she was just being discreet?
You haven't read The Wandering Star, Rumpole. There's absolutely nothing discreet about it. No. Philly thinks she left it out because it wasn't of the slightest importance to her.
Your wife takes a harsh view.
Harsh? She is without pity. This great affair you're so proud of, Claude, she said. You see, your girlfriend's simply forgotten all about it.
You should never have told her, Claude.
I know, Rumpole.
As we lawyers say, don't jump before you get to the stile. The world is full of nervous husbands leaping about in level fields, thinking that they've got to clear obstructions which aren't actually there.
Oh, dear. I jumped before I came to the stile.
Always an unwise thing to do. Don't worry, it'll pass. Dame Phillida can make mistakes with the best of us. She herself had a momentary misguided admiration for a crooked bedmaker, but that's all over now. She'll forget about Mercy.
Just like Mercy's forgotten me.
It's the private life, Claude. Just let it rest in peace. It's a great mistake to try to protect it. It always leads to trouble.
There's no one, Rumpole, to be allowed to lead a private life anymore. Privacy is sacred, Rumpole. I'm sure you agree.
You're quite right, Hilda.
Of course I'm right.
Possibly.
In Rumpole and the Right to Privacy by John Mortimer, Horace Rumpole was played by Timothy West, Hilda Rumpole, Prunella Scales, Mr. Rankin, David Shaw Parker, and Claude Erskine Brown, Nigel Anthony. Liz Probert was Elaine Claxton, Hugo Winterton, Anton Rogers, Gervase Johnson, Stephen Critchlow, Sir Mike Smedley, Kim Durham, and Mrs. Justice Erskine Brown, Joanna David. Rumpole and the Right to Privacy was directed by Marilyn Imrie.
Created specifically for radio by Alan Stranks, PC 49, Police Constable Archibald Barclay Willoughby was an ordinary bobby on the beat, solving crime in the late 40s and early 50s. He worked for Q Division of the Metropolitan Police. The series featured Brian Reese as PC 49, Joy Shelton as his girlfriend Joan Carr, Leslie Perrins as Detective Inspector Wilson, and Eric Phillips as Detective Sergeant Wright. The producer was Vernon Harris.
The Adventures of PC-49 by Alan Stranks, being another incident in the career of Police Constable Archibald Barclay Willoughby, with Brian Reese, Joy Shelton, and Leslie Perrins. This week's adventure, The Case of the Haunting Refrain.
What the dickens is going on in the next-door flat this evening, Joan? Somebody's been playing that same bit over and over ever since I came in.
Oh, there's nothing, Archie, darling. He's been doing it off and on for the last 3 days. And more on than off.
Who's he?
My new neighbour, Harry Castle, the songwriter. Here's the tea. He wrote Purple Shadows, Lost in a Dream, How Can I Tell? Oh, a dozen other smash hit songs. Move that ashtray off the table, darling.
Okay. Seem to have heard of him, but don't tell me he's turned the next-door flat into a song factory.
Oh, it doesn't worry me. I think it's rather fun living next door to a celebrity.
No, it'll drive me potty. Now, listen. Why doesn't he get on with it? He's still playing the same bit over and over.
I met him in the lift this morning. He apologized for the noise and said he was trying to finish a song for a new film. But he can't get it right.
Well, I suppose it's an easier way of earning a living than pounding the beat. But a bit rough on the neighbours. Ah, he stopped. Oh, blimey, he's got me doing it now.
It sounds rather pretty.
What, my voice?
No, idiot. You sound like a corncrake.
The trouble with you is you have no appreciation.
Oh, wonder who that can be.
See, the simplest way to find out is to open the door.
Clever little thing, aren't you?
Oh.
Oh, it's terribly sorry to trouble you, Miss Carver. I wonder if I could presume to beg, borrow, or steal a few cigarettes.
Oh, yes, of course. Do come in.
I just spoke me last. I simply can't work without them. It's far too late to buy any.
Oh, I think we can help you. Archie, this is Mr. Harry Castle, the famous songwriter. Mr. Castle, meet Archibald Barclay Willoughby. He's a policeman.
Oh, how do you do? Sorry to intrude.
That's all right, chum. Glad to know you.
Got any cigarettes, Archie?
All right. I got a new packet of 20 here. American blend.
Oh.
Present from a pal of mine who just came back from New York.
Marshall aid, eh? Well, that's fine. Let Mr. Castle have them, will you? I've got 4 or 5 in my case.
Oh, what, all of them?
Oh, I couldn't dream of depriving you.
Of course you'll have them, Mr. Castle. Yes, Archie, all of them. Well, come on. It'll be our little contribution to genius.
Oh, you flatter me, Miss Carr.
Oh. There you are, chum. I hope they'll stimulate your imagination. Oh, no. Please, don't pay for them. That'll be illegal.
Thanks. Thanks very much, old chap. You're a pal. I think I'll have to dedicate this song to you, Miss Carr, when it's finished. Yeah, well, I won't intrude any longer. I simply must finish the tune tonight. Good night, old man.
I'll come with you to the door.
Good night, Mr. Castle.
I do hope my playing doesn't trouble you, Miss Carr.
Oh, of course not. Do let us know how you get on with the song, won't you?
I promise you will be the first to hear. Good night. Thanks again.
Good night, Mr. Castle. It's a pleasure.
It's better. Now. A kiss, a sigh, then I'm high in the moonlit sky. Now we're getting somewhere. A kiss, a sigh, then I'm high in a moonlit sky. With the world.
Good Lord, it's midnight. Time I was on my way, Joan. I'm on early turn.
Yeah, I've got to be up early, too. Oh, you better go, darling.
Listen, Mr. Genius, still at it. You won't have much chance to sleep.
Oh, that won't keep me awake. Come on, Papa. I'll see you safely off the premises.
Good night, darling.
My favorite flatfoot.
Miss Carr! Miss Carr, I've got it! Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, go away.
It's all right, Mr. Castle. What were you saying?
I've got it! At long last, I've got it.
You mean you You finished the song?
To the last note. Oh, do come in when I play it over. I promised you were the first to hear it.
What, at this time of night?
Oh, of course, we'd love to hear it. Come on, Archie.
You've no idea how your cigarettes helped, old man.
Oh, you better cut me in on a percentage of the profits.
Quiet, Archie.
Here we are. Come along in. Now, Miss Carr, sit yourself down over here near the piano. Find yourself a chair, old man. Help yourself to a fag.
No, thanks. Mustn't rob you, old man. They're so hard to get.
Now then. It's a waltz, Miss Carr. May I call you Joe?
Of course.
Fine. I haven't done the verse yet. It's only a refrain, but this is the way it goes. A kiss, a sigh, then I'm high in a moonlit sky, with the world afar, like a distant star. Only heaven could send a passion so tender, a sigh, a kiss, and a moment of breathless bliss. Then, world without end, I gladly surrender to love's first kiss. What do you think of it?
Oh, it's beautiful. Absolutely wonderful.
You like it? Do you really like it? You don't think it's too romantic, too sophisticated for the mob?
I think it's divine. Completely perfect.
Oh, then you belong. You're not really typical of the common herd. Let's see what he thinks.
Who, me? Oh, I don't go for that mushy sort of stuff. I'd sooner have roll out the barrel. I mean, now, how does that go? Roll out the barrel, we'll have
Archie,
a bed.
stop at once. Have you no appreciation of the finer things? Do play it again, Mr. Castle.
Do you mean that? You really want to hear it?
I'd adore to.
All right, just a minute. I got home recording equipment here. It's a special attachment to my radiogram.
Oh, but how wonderful. Do you really mean to say you can make a record of your voice now?
I certainly do. See, I like to make recordings of myself singing the songs, and then I sit back and listen.
I'll bet you do.
See, I get a better perspective of my new works that way. It's all very simple. See, you put on a disc here, and you reverse this lever, and there it is. All ready to make a faithful recording of my voice.
Now, isn't that just too ducky?
Just press this button for me, old man, while I start, will you?
Okay, Mr. Crosby. I mean, Mr. Castle.
Now, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Again.
A kiss, a sigh, then I'm high in a moonlit sky, with the world afar, like a distant star, only heaven could send.
One a blinking clock. I've been listening to that sloppy songwriter serenade for over an hour. 28 times he played it. I counted. I thought we'd never get away.
Now, Archie, it was thrilling, actually, to be present at the birth of a song that the whole world will soon be singing.
Baloney. I thought you had to get up early in the morning.
Oh, so I do. Good night again, darling.
Oh, my Sunday helmet. There he goes again. Can I get out of this block of flats before I go mad?
He said he was going to take a sleeping draught and go straight to bed.
I hope he takes an overdose.
Archie, how can you say such a thing? He's a very charming and brilliant man.
He's a menace, that's what he is. Well, I need some sleep if you don't. I'm on early turn. Good night, Joan. See you tomorrow night.
Bless you, darling. Oh, darling. Oh, it's 8 o'clock already. Oh, just another 5 minutes. Oh, who's that?
It's Carl! It's Carl!
Oh, who is it?
Quick! Open up! It's me! Mrs. Carl!
Oh, Mrs. Butt. Oh, just a moment while I slip something on. And I shan't be a tick. You're very early this morning.
Oh, Miss Carl! Miss Carl!
What on earth's wrong, Mrs. Bott?
Oh, dear. Something awful's happened.
Oh, pull yourself together, dear. What is it?
I just went into Mr. Castle's flat to see if he was ready for me to do for him, but I think he's been done for already.
What are you talking about, Mrs. Bott?
Come and see for yourself, Miss Carr. He's lying half in and half out of bed. And by the colour of him, I think he's... I didn't dare touch him.
Perhaps he's ill. We'd better see.
I'll stay here. There he is. Look at him.
Mr. Castle. Mr. Castle. Are you all right? Wake up.
Is he?
Mrs. Bott, go and get the porter at once. Mr. Castle's dead. Inspector, so I ran straight out and found him.
As soon as I saw the way things were, sir, I phoned headquarters and waited here till you and Sergeant Wright arrived.
Oh, well, he's past help now. What do you think caused his death, Doctor?
An overdose of drug. One of the barbituric group, I should say. This bottle's empty, and there's traces of a white powder in the bottom of the coffee cup. All the visible symptoms are here.
Self-administered, do you think?
Well, that's for you to find out, Inspector.
The ambulance men are here, sir.
Good. They can move him straight to the mortuary, right? Do you mind if we step into your flat for a moment, Miss Carr? I'd like to ask you and 49 a few further questions about last night.
Oh, of course, Inspector. This way.
Come on, 49, you two.
Coming, sir.
Here we are.
After you, Miss Carr.
Close the door, Archie.
Now then, Miss Carr. When did you last see Castle alive?
Just before 1 o'clock this morning, Inspector. As a matter of fact, 5 minutes later, we heard him still playing the piano. Archie and I were just saying goodnight at my door.
Did he say anything about taking any drug?
Well, he did say he was going to take a sleeping draught. I remember that distinctly because Archie said he was a menace and that he hoped he'd take an overdose.
He said what?
A joke, sir. Only a joke.
Funny sort of joke for a police officer to make, 49. Very dangerous statement indeed, Constable.
Oh, good gracious, I couldn't foresee that he'd poison himself.
Who said he poisoned himself?
Oh, blimey, sir. Don't think I did it.
When a man meets his death under suspicious circumstances, all possibilities must be considered.
But Inspector, Archie couldn't have done it. He never met Mr. Castle until last night. There's no reason why
Let this be a lesson to you, young fella. Never make a foolish or careless statement which might be misconstrued in the light of ensuing events.
Bet your superannuation I won't, sir. Phew. Scared the wits out of me.
You're not out of the wood yet, young man.
All right, sir. They've removed the body. There doesn't seem to be much doubt that it's suicide.
You're probably right. Still, we'll go back to Castle's flat and have another look. You two had better come along.
Yes, sir. Coming, sir.
All right, 49. There's nothing more we can do here. Go back to headquarters and make a full report. I hardly think it's necessary to include your somewhat rash statement regarding the overdose of... Are you listening to me, 49? What are you doing with that ashtray?
Look, sir, there's something funny here.
Here we go again, right? A nice, straightforward case of suicide, and 49's going to get it all tangled up.
What is it, Constable?
These cigarettes, sir. There are 4 left in the packet.
Yes, American. I saw them. What of it?
I gave Castle those cigarettes last night. It was an unbroken packet of 20. There are 4 cigarettes left in the packet.
I can count. Go on.
And there are 15 American stubs in this ashtray. Now, 4 and 15 are 19.
Remarkable, he can add. Go on.
Where's the 20th cigarette?
Well, you tell me.
Well, while you've been talking, sir, I've searched everywhere, including the dustbin. There's no trace of it anywhere.
There's a dozen ways a man could dispose of a cigarette butt, 49, and leave no trace. The sink, the bathroom, the window...
I know, sir, but it's funny. All the rest of them are here.
I don't think there's anything to this, right, but you never know. Check up outside the window.
Okay, sir.
Are you sure you didn't take one of these cigarettes yourself, for instance, as you were leaving?
Positive, sir.
I'm pretty certain he didn't, Inspector.
It's all right, sir. The missing piece of evidence is here. Obviously, Castle shot it out of the window. Lying on the landing of the fire escape. There you are, sir.
All right, 49. There's your 20th cigarette. Lock up here, then get back and make out your report. Good morning, Miss Carr. Come on, Wright.
Good morning, Miss Carr.
So long, Sergeant. Bye-bye, Inspector. Well, I'll have to get going myself, Archie. Heaven knows what they'll say at the office.
Joan, there's something very funny here.
Funny? I think it's all horrible. Poor Mr. Castle was so cheerful last night when he'd finished the song. He must have taken those tablets by accident. I'm sure it wasn't suicide.
I've got a hunch it was neither suicide nor accident.
Oh, Archie, leave it be.
No, wait a minute. Look at these fag ends. The 15 that I found in the ashtray are all perfectly dry, not stained or wet where they've been smoked. See?
Well, what about it?
Now, look at this one Sergeant Wright picked up on the fire escape. See this ragged end, stained with nicotine. Castle was a dry smoker. The man who smoked this one was a wet smoker.
Oh, don't be silly, Archie. He's been lying out there on the fire escape all
Listen,
night.
the porter downstairs swore that nobody came in last night after I went out. But anybody could have carved that fire escape without him knowing. And if the intruder went out the same way, he may have dropped the cigarette.
Oh, dream on, Sherlock. I've got an appointment with some work. See you this evening.
Died from an overdose of sodium phenobarbital. As there is no definite evidence to show whether it was self-administered or taken by accident, or any evidence to indicate that it was administered by another party, I must leave the matter open. I find that Henry Castle's death was due to poisoning caused by one of the barbituric group of drugs. There is no evidence to prove how or by whom the drug was administered.
These open verdicts. If he'd made it suicide, we could have tied up the file and forgotten it.
Oh, well, that's the way it is, sir. Another unfinished case for the records. Still, we've no reason to suspect anybody.
It was either suicide or accident. Come on, bring these papers and let's get back to headquarters.
It may have been suicide, Joan.
I still believe it was an accident.
And I've got a hunch it was murder. I can't get over that fag end. I don't like these open verdicts, and neither does Inspector Wilson.
I wish you'd let me forget it. It's all too horrible. I tell you what, let's go to the pictures. It'll help me get my mind off it.
Okay, Angel. Where'll we go? Oh, there's a smashing whodunit at the Rialto. Music for murder. How about that?
What a morbid mind you've got. No, we'll go and see Forgotten Melody at the Palace.
Okay, you're the boss.
What a lovely picture.
What a proper stinker. Sentimental tosh. Oi, here comes the organist. Let's get out of here. I can't stand cinema organs.
I'm rather partial to Sandy McPherson myself.
This guy's not Sandy. Look, Angus Reed, the wizard of the console. Quick, I couldn't bear it.
Okay, lead on, Macduff.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, madam.
Gee, those feet of yours.
I couldn't help it. Come on, let's get out of here. This door.
Archie, listen. Listen to that organ.
It's just what I don't want to do. Come on.
No, listen to what he's playing.
Another of those terrible pop songs. Come on, out you come.
Archie, wait.
Not on your life. Come on, coffee dance for us. I could do with a cuppa.
Listen, you fathead. What was that song the organist was playing?
Oh, how do I know?
Try and remember the words.
Oh, anything to oblige. Something about a kiss aside. Oh, yes. A kiss aside, then I'm high.
High, you fool. You're bottom of the class.
Huh?
That was Harry Castle's last song. For heaven's sake, sit down and stop walking round. You're wearing out my carpet.
It's positively certain that nobody could have heard that song in its completed state before we did.
And that means that somebody heard it after we did.
Which proves that somebody did come to Harry Castle's flat after we left him that night.
And that somebody must have come up the fire escape, just as you said. I apologize about that cigarette butt.
It's 1,000,000 to 1 that somebody was Angus Reed, the organist we heard tonight. I wonder if he's a wet smoker.
Well, it may not have been Reed. It could have been somebody else who passed the tune on to him.
Could be. Joan, you remember that gramophone record Castle made on the night he died?
Yes, it was still on the radiogram next morning.
Have they moved Castle's things out of the next-door flat yet?
No, they only got permission from the police today. The carrier's coming tomorrow.
I wonder if I've got any chance of getting the key of that flat.
Unlawful entry? Aye, aye.
All in a lawful cause.
Well, now the case is over. I think Joe the porter might stretch a point and loan me the key. He's a good friend of mine.
And what are we waiting for?
Well, I'd better go and fix this. You wait here.
This is the record, right?
What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to take a chance and borrow it. If this is murder, maybe we can bait the trap with this piece of cheese.
Cheese? How dare you? It's a very beautiful song. He was going to dedicate it to me, poor chap.
Nevertheless, I've got a hunch that this little thread of melody is going to develop into a rope around somebody's neck.
Opening of this here Palace Cinema, Constable. I was a cleaner first, then I was promoted to commissionaire. I've been out front here for almost 14 years now. I still do a bit of cleaning at night. Brings in a spot of extra beer money.
And this organist, Angus Reed, has he been here long?
Oh, no, he's new. He come about 3 weeks ago. Says he's just returned from Australia. Been playing in some Sydney cinema. He's a funny sort of cove, though he's good, mind you.
Funny? How?
Well, he always stops after the last show at night to practice. Plays till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Hang on, that's unusual.
Yeah, you like organ music?
Yeah, I can't stand it. Yes, rather, I absolutely dote on it when it's well played. Right? I suppose that when I'm on night duty, I couldn't pop in and listen to him practicing.
Take the weight off your plates for a bit, eh?
That's the idea.
Well, I don't see why not. I could sneak into the stalls or up in the circle.
Oh, gosh, that'd be great. What about tomorrow night?
OK, mate. Only don't make it before midnight, will you? I'll tell you what. I'll leave the stage door open.
Good.
Let yourself in quiet, like, then come and find me. I'll be up here in the front of the house at that time doing the foyer at the manager's office.
That's a bet. Tomorrow night.
I can't see what you hope to gain by it, Archie.
Listen, Joan. Every cinema has got what they call a non-sync apparatus.
Non-sync? What's that?
Oh, it's a sort of gramophone turntable in the projection box.
Oh, that's where they show the films from, isn't it?
Yeah. And that turntable is connected with a loudspeaker behind the screen.
Oh, so that's how they put on those records during the interval.
Correct. Now, you know the record that Harry Castle made the night he died?
Well?
Well, tonight I'm going to take that record.
So different from when there's a show on. Can't I come with you?
No, you must stay, let's see. You stay here at the back of the stalls. Now, let me see. Yes, that's the vestibule out there. I can get upstairs through there. The projection room's behind the circle. Now, remember, if Reed comes in, don't make a sound.
Don't worry. I'll be paralyzed.
Right. Goodbye now.
Oh, dear. The things I do for PC-14.
Hi.
Hey?
You in the vestibule there.
Reed, who's that? Oh, it's you, Mr. Reed.
Yes, open up, will you? It'll save me walking around to the stage door. It's teeming out here.
Right you are, sir. Just a minute now. Watch your fingers in this gate now. There you are, Mr. Reed.
Ah, thanks.
You going to do some practice?
Yes, I've got a broadcast next week. I'll be rehearsing most nights from now on.
OK. And I won't clean out the front stalls until you're finished, then.
All right, thanks. Thanks very much. Hello. Who are you?
Oh, I didn't hear you coming.
Oh, well, it's a pretty thick carpet, this. What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm one of the usherettes. I was just sheltering from the rain.
Well, looks like it's set in. You'd better stick around for a while. Yeah, come down to the front and keep me company. I've got some rehearsing to do.
Well,
Oh, come on. Nothing to be frightened of. There you are. Now then, you just sit down in the front row while I switch the organ on. That's it. Now then, what do you fancy?
Oh, well, what was that thing you were playing the night before last in the interval? It was a waltz, I think.
Waltz? This one?
Oh, yes, that's the one. A sigh, a kiss. Oh.
Oh, it's a new song of mine. I only finished it a few days ago. Well, see what you think of it. I can't sing you the words. I'm no vocalist.
that?
passion.
What's that?
So tender.
It's Harry Castle. No, it can't be. No, it can't be. I killed him. I killed him myself. Stop him! Stop him! You heard me say that, didn't you? You heard me say I killed him.
No, I didn't hear anything you said. I was listening to the music.
Oh, yes, you did. You heard me. You've got something to do with this. It's a trick. A trick to trap me.
No. Keep away. Don't touch me.
You thought you were clever, didn't you? You she-devil. But you're not clever enough. How did you know the title of that song, eh? No one knew the words but me and Castle.
No.
You know too much. I'm going to kill you.
The same as you killed Harry Castle.
Who's that?
Oh, Archie, thank goodness.
I'm a police constable and I want...
Good work, 49. Very good work indeed. But as usual, completely unorthodox and in flagrant contravention of every known rule of the service.
Yes, sir. Very sorry, sir.
Come in, Wright.
Morning, Miss Carr. Hello there, 49.
Good morning, Sergeant.
Well, what's the news, Wright?
Reed signed his statement, sir. It appears that he and Castle were a piano act on the halls years ago. Reed wrote a particularly fine song. Castle stole the manuscript and sold it to a publisher, swearing he'd written it himself. Reed couldn't prove his right to the property. As soon as Castle got his royalties for the song, he skipped to America, taking Reed's young wife with him. He spent some years there, then came back to England, having heard that Reed was in Australia. But Reed had been watching his movements for years. He'd become unbalanced due to Castle's treatment of the loss of his wife. Apparently, Castle ditched the girl in America and she committed suicide.
Sounds a proper blackguard.
He was, sir.
I said that guy was a menace.
Go on, Sergeant.
Well, on the night of Castle's death, Reed came up the fire escape to his flat after Miss Carr and 49 left. He threatened to kill Castle, but Castle talked him round. He promised to give Reed money, a share in his royalties, anything, if only Reed would let him go. Well, Reed pretended to fall for it. Castle had some strong black coffee on a side table, and Reed contrived to put the full contents of the bottle of sleeping draught into it. He took the manuscript of the song Castle had been working on from the piano and left his ex-partner there to die. I'm pretty certain he'll be a Broadmoor case.
Poor devil. Nothing more, Wright?
Yes, one thing more, sir. He did take one of those American cigarettes, and he is a wet smoker, 49.
Yes, Sarge? Oh, thank you, Sarge. May we go now, sir? It's my day off.
Yes, off you go, 49. And for Pete's sake, try and keep your nose out of crime for 24 hours.
Yes, sir, certainly, sir. Come along, Joan.
Good morning, Inspector. Bye-bye, Sergeant Wright.
Morning,
Miss
Miss
Carr.
Carr.
Come on, darling.
What's the hurry, Archie? Where are we going?
To buy a gramophone record.
Gramophone record? What of?
Roll out the blinking battle. I can't stand these sentimental tunes.
That concludes the case of the haunting refrain, another incident in this series of adventures of PC-49, written by Alan Stranks.
McLevi is a British radio crime drama series, written by David Ashton, about the 19th century Edinburgh police detective James McLevi.
May the sinful stains on the soul of this poor creature be washed away to the raging seas. May she be purified by the blood of the Lamb, her corruption cleansed by the merciful hand of the Almighty.
Oh, amen to that, sir.
Are you ready, profligate sinner, to be washed in the blood of the Lamb, anointed in the flesh, and touched to the hollow of your bones by the eternal Father?
Oh, touch me, sir. Touch me.
Holy God.
Be quiet, Hannah. top to bottom. Cleanse me good.
I understand, ain't it?
Just stay out of sight. Top to bottom, sir.
Are you ready to be purified?
Ready and willing.
Do you abase yourself before me?
On my knees, sir. Desperate keen.
Are you ready for the laying on of hands?
Lay them on, sir. Lay them on.
I'm for the door.
On you go. He's harmless enough. Here I am, sir. Flesh and blood.
Then, in his name, and on his behalf, I grasp ye to the bosom of...
Hannah, are you still there?
I'm trammelled up in a curtain.
Oh, God, come out, please. Hurry up.
God almighty.
Is he possessed, maybe?
I doubt that very much, Jessie.
Oh, my God. What have we done?
It's not what we've done. It's what follows.
Crime and the law. Fire and ice. A thief, for instance, is more natural than you or I. He considers, as a tiger would in the jungle, it is his absolute right to tear you limb from limb should you stray within his ken. It is my profession to curtail that natural assumption. Or perhaps you are more refined, an embezzler of sorts, or a pocket delver, a high-roof bolter, a nip-and-tuck man, a nymph of the pave with larcenous intent, a nichtwalker, a rin-the-cutter, a corpse-lifter. In all these pastimes, and many more that, like the stars in the sky, cannot be counted, or the sand on the seashore measured, you break the law. And the law is what I uphold. Lady Justice, scales in one hand and sword in the other, I serve her to the utmost of my by no means insignificant ability. Permit me to introduce myself. I am James McCleavey, Inspector of Police, and my parish is Leith, in the city of Edinburgh. Coffee is the blood that runs in my veins. And if I could find a decent brew, I'd marry the woman that makes it. Oh, just one thing, and you forgot. In respect of the 6th commandment, should you perhaps break this, I am afraid you may find my hand hard gripped upon your sleeve, and the shadow of a hangman's rope fall across your face. Man or woman, high or low, in hot blood or cold, thou shalt not kill. For should you do so, I'll bring you down.
Nothing to cheer a man up after breakfast like a dead body on the slab.
Right enough.
Found where exactly?
Bodykeeper.
What?
In the water of Leith, naked as Adam.
Cause of death?
As yet unknown, Dr. Jarvis.
That is where I come in, to dispel the clouds of your ignorance, McCleavey. No obvious mortal wound.
Uh-huh.
So, a few bruises? Fallen in perhaps and then drowned?
Or thrown from the bridge above, already a corpse.
And what makes you think such?
Moss on the top of the brigstone had been fresh scraped back, as if something shoved over.
All surmise, Inspector. Best not try teaching Granny how to suck the hen's egg.
Sorry, sir. I tried a shortcut and got lost in the wines.
Like many a man afore you, Dr. Jarvis, this is Constable Mulholland. Come skipping all the way over from Ireland to bolster my intelligence.
A hard task, surely.
I already feel the benefit.
Thank you, sir.
Don't mention it. Anything else at first sight?
Face contorted considerably. Fear, perhaps. Shock of death.
Or something else.
Pity he was naked, eh?
Clothes are always a great help.
Is that a fact?
The hands of the cadaver.
No rings of any kind, I noticed.
Yeah, but soft skin. Most certainly not from the labouring class.
No. A bank manager.
What?
Tell me what you discover when you cut him up.
What, a bank manager?
Come away, Mulholland. Dr. Jarvis might chop you to bits by mistake.
I'm sure he would notice the difference.
A bank manager? How do you know such?
And Dr. Jarvis, if you must suck eggs for breakfast, try not to dip your shirt cuff in the yolk.
How annoying. Freshly laundered as well.
You don't like him much, do you, sir?
Oh, no getting past you, Mulholland.
McCleavy, what's this I hear about another corpse in the cold room?
Aha, not a stitch to his name.
I can bear witness to that, sir. Thank you, Constable. Foul play?
Remains to be seen, Lieutenant Roach.
Identification?
Not even a birthmark.
But I thought you said he... What? Was a bank manager.
Took the words out of my mouth, Constable.
A bank manager?
British linen. Not your branch, sir. The Royal Mile.
How do you know all this?
A lay preacher also. I saw him on the sands of Portobello. Fire and brimstone. He breathed it out. Robert Forsyth.
Forsyth? But we've been in the same congregation.
Not anymore.
A respectable citizen, naked and dead in Leith. How did this happen, McCleavy?
A mystery, sir. And mysteries, as you well know, are my meat and drink.
Did I speak out of turn then, sir?
Did you?
By divulging to our superior.
Is he?
What?
Our superior.
Well, he is in command.
Right enough.
Where are we going now?
Forsyth's domicile.
You know where he lives?
It came to me in a flash. One thing of note.
Yes, Inspector?
Why the body ended up where it did.
Well, I don't suppose it had much choice.
No, Constable. I mean in our parish. What was he doing there? Forsyth is his address just off the Royal Mile. A fair haul from there to Leith.
But it is downhill, sir.
Indeed it is. All the way.
Are you sure it's my Robert?
I'm afraid so, Mistress Forsyth.
Oh, dear. He was out late last night and gone in the morning. Our rooms are separate, you see, and by the time I rose, gone. I imagined early to the bank, as was his custom.
Have you any idea why he would find himself in such an insalubrious area?
Salvation.
Tell me a wee thing more.
Of recent times, Robert came to a decision, an inspiration. He avowed that... Oh, dear.
Oh, take your time, mistress.
That preaching to the converted was not the Lord's work. Mary, he said to me, I must go into the belly of the beast.
Ah, Leith would certainly qualify.
To bring the Lord's salvation into the lives of these poor, unfortunate women.
Frail by nature.
Prostitutes, drabs, call them what you will. They have a soul. They may be redeemed.
Is that a burning I smell?
Oh, gracious me. The bread's still in the oven. Oh, you must excuse me.
Ah, it should be saved.
What?
The bread.
How would you know?
My Aunt Katie is forever doing that.
Oh, the loaves. I make them for the poor. Robert and I often...
Mistress Forsyth, sadly, when your husband came to the surface, there was an absence of clothing.
Absence?
Nothing at all.
Naked?
I'm afraid so.
Oh, how terrible for him.
What was his usual apparel when he went out to redeem the fallen?
A frock coat. Grey, dark trousers and a clean shirt. Shoes always shined. Robert was very particular about that.
Oh, I'm exact the same.
That's nice. Did he ever wear a wedding ring?
Robert considered such ostentatious.
Pocketbook?
Always left at home on those nights.
Anything else carried?
A watch. Gold. Inscribed. Time is of the essence, Robert always said.
Nothing found on his person?
He would be robbed then?
Perhaps.
And murdered also?
No obvious wounds.
We'll have to wait for the autopsy.
Oh, dear.
Thank you, Mulholland.
Where was he found, as it were?
River of Leith.
How odd. Robert could not swim. Always hated water. Except for baptism, of course.
You're not saying much, sir.
I'm thinking.
Should I not have mentioned the autopsy?
Nothing a widow enjoys more than the notion, as she cuts the bread, so a police surgeon slices up her other half.
You're being sarcastic.
I more consider it to be irony. Try to cultivate irony, Mulholland.
I'll think about it.
Your opinion of the woman?
A decent enough Christian body.
Yet as regards her husband's motives?
Well, my Aunt Katie always says, if the horse is dead, don't try to ride it.
What the hell does that mean?
His motives died with him.
True enough. But there are many reasons for seeking out the belly of the beast when darkness falls, and goodness is not always one of them. So, here we are, the happy land.
Looks like a big tenement.
A honeycomb of sin. In the bad old days, many a respectable citizen emerged from here minus his money and reputation.
It's a bawdy house, then?
You're not far wrong. Used to belong to a man named Henry Prager. He and I had a wee altercation, and then he died.
From the altercation?
It may have paved the way. And now it belongs to his former partner in crime. As some say his concubine, some say his nemesis. Her name is Jean Brash.
A nemesis, eh?
That's what they say. Mistress Brash has kept out of trouble these many years, and I have little call to have much to do with her. We pass on the street, we nod politely.
From a distance?
Precisely. But now I am about to rectify that situation.
Why?
Because if there's one place in Leith with the surfeit of women needing to be saved, it is the happy land. Hello, the house!
Do you know what time it is, for God's sake?
I'm well aware.
Oh? Stand out in the light.
Gladly.
Oh, James McLeavy.
And you are Jean Brash.
I thought you were a client. Should have known better. Only the police would be hammering you up at this time of the day.
It's not all that early.
Who are you?
Constable Mulholland.
You're very tall.
It runs in the family.
Is that coffee I detect?
I was just brewing up before being so rudely interrupted.
A nice aroma.
I make the best coffee in Edinburgh.
What's the secret?
Quality and grinding. If you two stand there all day, you'll put a damper in the clients. I'm coming down.
Ambrosia.
Beg pardon?
I may have found the woman I am to marry.
Surely not, sir.
What did I tell you about irony, Mulholland?
It's hard to spot.
So, James McLeavy, welcome to my humble abode. Well?
Very delicate.
I don't know how you can tell with 5 lumps of sugar in it.
Oh, I can tell. What is the provenance?
A Canongate merchant. But one day I'll have it shipped direct from the Lebanon.
One day?
When I move to better premises.
Oh. This water's very nice.
Comes out the tap. So, Inspector, why have you near knocked the door down?
Robert Forsyth. You know that name?
Not immediately. Why?
He saves whores, and you have many of them.
Whore is such an ugly word. I prefer my girls, or even magpies.
They like shiny objects.
Such as gold watches.
The man is not a client here. You may have my word upon it. Is he happy in his work?
He's dead.
That's a pity. More coffee?
No. Thank you.
Is something on your mind, Inspector?
I was thinking, Jean Brash, that should you be lying to me and end up in Perth Penitentiary or a transportation ship...
Dear me, what a prospect.
I would bitterly regret the loss of such fragrance.
Myself? Or the coffee?
Both, perhaps.
Well, that didn't get us very far.
When I mentioned Forsyth's name, did you not remark her index finger?
I was looking at the face.
An easy mistake. It tightened round the handle of the cup. She conceals something, I am certain of it.
I couldn't see such.
You have to develop a sixth sense, Constable. When folk tell you one thing, something inside them is relating quite another.
Is that like irony?
Near enough. Come on. We're down to the wines to converse with the half-uncles.
What's that?
The wee pawn shops where many a purloined item finds harbour.
Can we not stop for something to eat?
No such thing as food, Mulholland. When you're on the case, no such thing.
Och, it's been a poor sort of day, Inspector. Nothing but trinkets.
That's a disappointment, Ned. You're our last port of call.
What in God's name was that?
Mulholland's stomach.
I'm still hungry.
Let me inspect your treasure trove.
Welcome to it. See what I tell you? Only let them pledge this rubbish at the goodness of my heart.
What heart?
No, nothing here, sir.
And your other stash?
Eh?
You wouldn't let your value items lie so loose and easy. Where is it?
I have nothing else.
Your eyes tell another story.
I swear upon my life, McLeavy.
Mulholland, that tea chest. Pull it aside through the wall.
Whatever you say, sir.
On my mother's grave.
Your mother lives in Vinegar Close and sells pokes of sweeties that would rot the devil's teeth. Well?
A drawer behind it, with a big fine lock.
The key.
I must protest.
The key.
I'm a free citizen.
This is Leith.
Here.
Give the beast to Mulholland.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Much obliged.
Shameful way to treat a poor man.
Shameful.
Got it.
Bring the drawer up here.
This is more like the thing.
But not what we search out.
No, sad but true.
See? You owe me an apology, McLeavy.
Hold on.
What are you doing, sir?
The aperture whence came the drawer. Wait now. Just in case. Oh, loose brick at the back. Another aperture. Mystery upon mystery. And here, a small wooden box containing what? I wonder, Ned.
Family remains.
Well, see now. This fine gold watch. Observe how it glitters in the light.
Does it have an inscription?
So it does. You read it, Mulholland. You're an educated man.
To Robert, from his adoring wife, Mary.
Now I wonder, Ned, who pawned this wee offering? Shields. Donny Shields runs a gang of Achilles from this tavern, the Foul Anchor. Petty thieves in the main, but the boy has aspirations. Admired by the ladies, and he's a dirty, vicious devil. You see him, at the bar there.
On the small side, runty.
Most are, compared to yourself. Now, where is your stick?
Here, sir. All they had left, full of splinters.
I'll have to do. Go round the back. I'll drive him out to you.
On my way.
Wait. Now, the first thing...
I caution him.
No. The first thing is to lay him out, flat. Then you put the restrainers on him. Then you caution.
1, 2, 3.
Good luck. You may need it. 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, Inspector. What's to be your pleasure?
Conversation. Shields, Donny Shields, I want a word with you.
Did my mother send you?
No.
She worries over me, you see.
You pawned a gold watch not long since. How came you by it?
None of your damn business.
I think it is. You will come with me to the station.
You'll have to catch me first.
Here, my tin jug's empty. You can buy me a drink, McCleavey.
That's Donny out the back door. I doubt you've lost him, Inspector.
I think not, Tom. I'll follow up my leisure. A word of warning, gentlemen, remain where you are. It's healthier.
Do what he commands. Man carries a big revolver. Kill you dead.
What are you doing down there?
I headed him right enough, but that stick was feeble.
So?
He kicked me.
Whereabouts?
Below the belt, sir.
No! Whereabouts is he? There he goes! Come on!
Where now?
There. He's heading for the wines.
Is that not towards the bawdy house?
Might have known.
I would catch him, were I not so hampered.
Go ahead. The pain will lessen as you move further into pursuance. Oh, I hate running. It's so indecorous.
I'm over here, sir, by the happy land.
What are you doing standing still?
He's vanished, sir.
Into the honeycomb?
Just vanished.
Oh, we'll see about that. Jean Brush! Open this door! Open this door before I break it down!
McCleavey! Are you desperate, man?
Donny Shields. Is he in your house?
That gallows breed, I wouldn't let him in.
He pawned a gold watch from the body of Forsyth. You best be telling me the truth, Jean.
Why would I lie?
Let me in.
It's a private establishment.
It's a bawdy house.
Well, there he is, sir. Over by the canal.
Oh, after him. After. You're in there somewhere, Jean Brash. Up to that long white neck of yours.
Don't take your bad temper out on me, James McCleavey.
I'll be back. I'll be back. You wait and see.
Mistress? Are you all right? That was a devil of a noise.
Was it not? Moira, I want you to deliver a note for me.
I'm just sizing up a client.
You can hold fire. You know where young Jessie Morgan bides?
I do. But did she not leave us a fair while ago?
Aye, but she came back.
I'll get my coat.
Damnation. Now we're all in the scrape.
Donny Shields found some hole to hide in like a sewer rat. And try as we might, There was no digging them out. I came home to my wee attic room. It overlooks the lights of the city, and it is a place where I may ponder undisturbed. We'll find Shields. A vicious wee swine, but not all that clever. Jean Brash, however, is quite another proposition. Queen of the Night, they called her, and I could sense over that fragrant coffee a subtlety of mind and humour balanced by the most infallible lack of morality. Thank goodness. How else would I have found her such a fascination? Her eyes green like a hunting cat, hair red in colour, and her skin the most perfect white. A delicate pulse beats at the base of her throat. It must be blood on the move. Dearie me.
You came to me, Jessie Morgan, begging for help.
Right enough, mistress.
I gave you my advice, but did you follow it?
She did not, it would seem.
And you, Hannah Semple, you should know better.
Her dead mother was a good friend of mine.
So?
All I did was to hide behind the curtain at the door.
I wanted to set up for myself.
This Forsyth was one of our first clients. I just wanted to make sure he didn't cut her throat.
He did not. Just drop dead. I told you, burn all possessions, get the body dumped at sea, deep water.
I burnt his clothes, right enough. But I left the body disposal to Jessie. She had her own ideas.
And you gave Donny Shields the gold watch, Jessie?
It's payment.
She's soft on him.
He promised me to get rid of the cadaver.
Oh, he dumped it in water, all right. In Puddicky Burn.
Holy God.
Pawned the gold. And now he's got McCleavy on his trail.
Donny won't like that.
Too damn bad.
I need to keep you two out of sight for a while.
I'll be all right. I have my own wee place, and I have my cutthroat razor to hand.
Oh, that'll make all the difference.
I'm not associated with this event, Mistress Brash.
True enough, you're not, but Jessie is.
Where can I go?
I'll find somewhere. All we can do is wait. Trust that it all blows over.
Ah, come in, Inspector. Dr. Jarvis has just brought me up to date.
Has he now?
You look the worse for wear, McCleavy.
An unsuccessful pursuit.
But not myself. My report herewith. Cause of death, strychnia.
Uh-huh.
You don't seem surprised.
I suspected something like that.
Well, you may suspect, McCleavy, but I prove.
The lungs?
Empty of water, dead before he hit the surface.
Strychnia, eh?
The dose itself may not have been fatal, possibly less than a quarter grain. But the man Forsyth seems to have had a weak heart.
So, a combination of the two.
Murder most foul.
Stomach contents, anything else?
Traces of sugar, a confection perhaps.
A sweet tooth, eh?
Strychnia. Not hard to come by. My wife uses it to kill rodents.
I was chasing one of them last night.
Ineffectively, it would seem. Oh, and observe my shirt cuffs. Pristine this morning.
Like your conscience.
That's quite enough, McCleavy. Now, we cannot have respectable citizens floating dead in the waters of Leith.
No. Think of the fish.
What?
Feeding on them, sir.
Well, I've done my job.
And I thank you for it, Dr. Jarvis. Over to you, Inspector. Don't let me hold you back.
The widow identified the watch, sir.
Good.
She offered me some bread.
What?
Fresh baked. Very nice.
Marvellous.
Are you being ironic?
I'm remembering something Donny Shields said to me.
Did my mother send you?
No.
She worries over me, you see.
Might you share it with me, sir?
I'll do better than that.
Someone looked through the window.
How can you tell? Covered in muck.
Something moved.
What do you want?
Sarah Shields.
What if it is?
Inspector McCleavy, ma'am. My constable, Mulholland. Like a wee word about your son, Donny.
He's no here.
I'm sure that's true.
My Donny is a good boy.
Oh, you'd be surprised how many doting mothers, Mrs. Shields, sing me that same tune. Now, may we enter?
The house is no for welcome. I live poor.
No matter. And Mulholland here was raised most of his life in a farmyard band.
Hen's all over me. Then fit to burst.
No here. See? I told you.
I believe what you say, and why should I not? A fine wee fire you have on the go, Mr. Shields.
A body needs some warmth.
You'll need to poke up the embers, though.
I know my business.
Fine fire. But why all the coal in a heap on the stone floor when there's a perfectly good coal bunker on hand?
I wondered that.
Move to it. So, Sarah, tell me, when did you last see young Donny?
A while back. For my birthday.
Did he bring you a cake?
What?
Now, Mulholland. Well. You didn't look too comfortable in there, Donny.
You leave my wee boy alone.
Shut up, Mammy. Here, let me help you out. That's sore you did.
Not as sore as that kick you gave me.
Dearie me, you're all covered in coal dust, Donny. I'm sure we can find you a better abode than this.
Poison. That's a woman's hand, not mine.
And what are you?
The gutty knife. Sliced to the bone.
You couldn't have cut a water lily.
It's just you try me, McCleavy.
Dear me, that's a dirty neck. How will the hangman know where to put the rope?
I could draw a chalky line, sir.
I know nothing about this man.
You pawned his watch?
It was given me.
Who gave it?
Jessie Morgan. She fancies my body.
How is that possible?
I know the name.
Used to be one of Jean Brash's wagtails. Lost in it. Just mad for me.
And you'll lay down your life for her, of course.
That's irony, sir. Definite.
Why did she give you the watch?
I told you. A token. Wants to set herself up with me.
Waters of Leith.
Eh?
Been there recent?
Never.
What about the wee bridge?
What about it?
Get rid of anything there.
I don't know what you mean.
You know what I mean. And I'll wring it out of you, drop by drop. Take him out of my sight.
Gladly. Come on, you.
I tell you this, McCleavy. I'm an innocent man. That woman dragged me into it.
Come on.
So, our next port of call, Jessie Morgan.
You know where to find her?
I know their haunts. We'll see.
How'd you read this so far?
I think Donny told the truth, insofar as she gave him the watch. My guess is a payment of sorts to get rid of Forsyth's body.
But if all that is so, what was Jessie doing in possession of the body? Unless she poisoned to rob him?
When we find her, I'll ask such.
James McCleavy. I missed you hammering the door this morning.
Uh-huh.
Did you find your quarry?
He's in the cells.
Oh, and what did he have to say for himself?
Jessie Morgan. You know that name?
One time, but she left me headstrong.
You know her whereabouts?
No. Why is your constable looking at my fingers?
Am I?
Admiring the diamond rings. Come up in the world, eh, Jean?
Nowhere else to go but up.
After Henry Prager.
Right enough.
The inspector told me about that.
Did I?
Only a little.
Oh, it's a well-known story. A legend in Leith.
And what is your part in it, ma'am?
I was in thrall to a certain person.
Henry Prager?
Exactly. He caught me young and kept me for a number of terrible years.
You were his partner?
Eventually. A vicious, violent swine. He owned the Holy Land and a tavern called the Pigs o' Docherty.
And what's the story?
One night, yen of his gang ran to the tavern, cut a man bad in a fight
looking to hide.
I saw the incident, chased the man in. I was new to the streets then.
Found yourself in the lion's den.
Wasn't it a fair fight? His gang tripped at me. Prager had big hands, big knuckles, smashed them in. I ended on the floor, saw his boots come towards me. Iron caps on the toes, ready to kick his fill.
The policeman was in a parlous situation.
I had blood in my eyes. But when I looked past Prager, I saw one of his fancy women, a tall, sleek-it wagtail. She gave me a big smile. Then she winked at me.
The policeman came off that floor like a man berserk, hammered Prager from one end to the other. No one could stop him.
I left him, a heap of bones on the floor, arrested the man I'd come for and quit the tavern. Henry Prager disappeared soon after that. Some say murdered.
He had many enemies.
The body never found, and the tall, sleek-it wagtail took over the Holy Land.
That's the story, anyway. And the pair stayed clear after that, as if there was a death between them. But now they look into each other's eyes.
With another corpse on hand. Nothing changes.
Except the coffee.
That I cannot deny.
I'll keep it warm for you. Drive on, if you please.
Aye, mister. Is any of that true?
Everything and nothing. And still she conceals something.
Why did she wink at you back then?
I've never asked. Come on. We hear a suspect to find.
At your back, sir. Every step of the way.
I don't suppose you have any coffee on the boil, Hannah.
Coffee's for rich folk.
Recht enough. Mind if I sit down? My feet are killing me.
Only 3 legs.
What?
The chair.
Oh, I'll be careful. Oh, that's better. Mulholland can stand. He's the younger man.
I could see that.
I've been on the go all day, looking for someone you know.
Who might that be?
Jessie Morgan.
You were a dear friend of her mother's.
I watched her die.
We're searching out young Jessie in the course of an investigation.
But she seems to have vanished.
Not on the streets, not in her lodgings, nowhere.
What's it to do with me?
2 nights ago you were drinking with her in Devlin's tavern, early evening.
Says who?
I have my sources.
The barman.
Thank you, Mulholland. Am I correct in that assertion?
Aye. Bought me a whisky. As I said, friend of her mother's. Then we went our separate ways.
Where was she heading?
She didn't say.
This may well be a murder investigation, Hannah.
Who brought Jessie's name into it?
Donny Shields.
That scum.
Blames her for getting him thrown in jail, that's for sure.
One way or another, Jessie could be in deep trouble. If you know where she is, it's best you tell us, Hannah.
I know nothing.
So ended another dreich and unsuccessful day. Like a house of secrets where every door was closed against me. I let Donny Shields fester in the cells till morning. Perhaps the fleas might soften him up. I suspected Hannah knew more than she revealed. But where the hell was Jessie Morgan? I had all my informants and spies out in the street, but they'd so far come up with nothing. One thing I did that might bear fruit. Willie Mather, a sly, conniving crater, but he could follow like your own shadow. I put him on watch outside Hannah Semple's door. If the old woman went wandering, I wanted to know where. To make matters worse, I'd run out of coffee, so I slept on pins and needles until the dawn. I'd thought to go to the station early, hammer into Shields before he hardly woke, but I arrived to be greeted by pure, unadulterated chaos.
Mulholland, what are you doing here? I live not far away. Someone banged on the door.
For what reason?
To waken me up.
But why, for God's sake?
Shields has escaped, sir.
What?
The man pretended illness, and when the jailer came in, he kicked the poor fella in a bad place, and smashed him over the head, and walked out free as the air.
Who was on duty?
Night shift. Most of them asleep.
Am I surrounded by incompetence?
I wasn't there, Inspector.
Have you sent word to the lieutenant?
Not yet.
You better do so. So, Donny's on the loose, eh? Oh, that'll put the cat amongst the pigeons.
How do you mean, sir?
From now on, anything can happen.
Well, McLeavy, I take it you have so far not won the day.
We've turned over every low dive and every dirty tavern in the parish, rousted up most of the Shields gang, all the Keeleys and their fancy women.
One of them scratched at me.
You pulled the bedclothes off her.
I didn't know she was there.
Scratch aside. We've come up with nothing.
I think it might be advisable if I take partial charge of this search, McLeavy.
By all means, sir. I'm sure the men are on tenterhooks for your guiding hand.
Where do you suggest to begin?
You could make another pass through the harbour wines. You might get lucky.
It is not a matter of luck, Inspector. It is more logical pursuance.
Your servant, aye, Lieutenant Roach.
Come along, man. Follow me.
Terrible smell in these harbour wines.
The lieutenant won't know us. He's a mason.
Where do we go?
You see that wee gadgie on the corner?
I do.
That's Willie Mather. And by the looks of it, he has something to tell me.
Oh, Jessie, what a damned fool you are.
I'm sorry, Hannah.
Why did you do it?
I thought I could explain.
What a treat, eh?
Well, well, Jessie Morgan, at last.
How the hell did you get in here?
Magic.
Lockpicks. Never seen anything like it.
Thank you, Mulholland. What in God's name happened to you?
I tripped.
Tripped, damn all. She sent word to Donny's mother, told her where she was biding.
I heard that Donny had escaped and I just wanted to explain. But he wouldn't listen.
I can see that.
You must have had me followed.
That was the plan.
I'm not as stupid as you look, McLeavy.
Do you know where he went, Shields?
No, he just left.
Jessie, you're deep connected to the death of Robert Forsyth.
The man just fell over.
Oh, hell's teeth. Admit nothing.
You will accompany us to the station.
She's no fit to be moved.
The doctor can examine her.
I'm coming along.
Only as far as the station desk, Hannah, and there you stop.
I was in hand as well.
What?
When he died.
You were both in it then?
I'm going to be sick.
Get her a bucket, Mulholland. When the doctor's done his bit, you're both under question.
I'm not leaving Jessie.
Here's a basin, all I could find.
I'm not leaving her.
Nothing like sheep's head broth.
I'll take your word.
It's just the eye sockets. Are you not eating?
No hungry. Oh, this coffee's terrible.
Ah, well, Lieutenant's happy. We have someone in the noose.
The potion the doctor gave Jessie put her out like a light.
But as soon as she stirs awake, we'll be on hand. Now, if we can just find Shields, all wrapped up.
I have a wee plan for such.
Ready and waiting, sir.
Good. When we rousted up Donny's gang, I left one man free from our ministrations. Tig Mulgrew, a cousin of Donny's, follows him like a dog.
You think he'll lead us to the hidey hole?
Possibly. If Mulgrew thinks he's in the clear this night.
That's a clever move.
I'm very clever.
We can use Willie Mather again.
Too dangerous. You can do it.
Me? I'd stick out like a sore thumb.
I have faith in you, Mulholland.
That's ironic.
Only a wee bit.
Don't look up, sir. A woman just came in the tavern.
So?
She doesn't look pleased.
James McLeavy, may I have a word?
Jean Brash, I'd invite you for coffee, but it's bitter as hell.
You have 2 women in your jail.
I do. Hannah Semple, Jessie Morgan.
Jessie is battered black and blue, I hear.
She'll recuperate.
What will you do then?
Question and most probably charge.
With what?
Robbery, perhaps, and murder.
The man had a seizure, for God's sake.
How do you know that?
A lucky guess.
It was poison, Jean, provoked the seizure.
Poison?
That makes it murder. One way or another, the law will decide.
Oh, yes. 2 loose women up for the killing of a respectable man. Some justice will see there.
All are equal before it.
Your law is in the pocket of the rich.
That's not true.
Then prove it. Give these 2 women a decent shake of justice. Prove it to me, and maybe I'll dance at your damned wedding.
I told you she wasn't looking pleased.
McLeavy, has the Morgangill recovered?
Not long since. I'm about to question them in the cells.
Where is Mulholland?
On a wee errand.
To do with Shields?
I hope so. Did you find anything in the harbour wines, sir?
Sewage.
Dearie me.
It would be nice now and then, Inspector, if you might let me into your thinking.
I'm not very sure.
Sure of what?
What it is, I'm thinking.
Go and do your job, McLeavy.
He just keeled over.
What had you given him?
Nothing.
It was a first time. But we heard from some of the other girls what he required.
Other girls?
Been to quite a few. Big Nose Kate, for starters.
Oh, good luck there.
Anyway, we knew the score. He would chastise about sinful depravity, and then came the laying on of hands. I was going to leave it to Jessie then. Just wanted to make sure he wasn't too dangerous.
Somebody made sure. They killed him.
Well, it wasn't us. I hoped he'd be a regular. Regulars are like gold dust.
Gold dust or not, the charge is murder.
You've got us guilty already.
I need to lie down.
You keep upright, Jessie. We go through the whole evening, all over again.
Why, for God's sake?
Just in case. Begin.
He walked in, stood. I had to kneel so that he could chastise.
I was behind the door, Captain.
He raised his hand, popped in his macaroon, and then just started...
What? Macaroon?
It's a sweetie biscuit.
From what?
A paper bag.
Were they store-bought?
Didn't look so.
What happened to them? The macaroons, after he fell?
We burnt them.
With everything else.
Sir, I think I found Shields.
What?
I followed Tague Mulgrew. You'll never guess where.
Just spit at it.
Salamander Street.
But that's close by.
Right under our nose.
Tell the lieutenant, get the men ready.
I'll do that.
What are you going to do with this, McLeavy?
You'll find out in due course.
I need to lie down.
Go ahead, then.
Will they kill Donnie?
I hope so.
I need to sleep.
Go ahead. I'll be here, Jessie. Nowhere else to go.
That big house on the corner.
Derelict by the looks. Good place to hide.
So, how do we approach this, McLeavy?
With great vigilance.
One thing, I noticed a lot of men on the streets.
Shields, Keelys, maybe.
I could have sworn I saw Jean Brash's carriage.
She might be looking for Donnie as well. with her own men.
For what reason?
Retribution. Oh, sounds like the boys have met up.
Well, it is my contention we wait here until they have been properly introduced, and then we pick up the scraps.
Couldn't agree more, sir. Can you hold the fort here, Lieutenant?
I can manage that.
Come on, Mulholland.
Don't get lost now. I won't be on hand to help should violence occur.
Was that ironic?
What?
From the lieutenant?
Who knows? Oh, black as the grave.
Where are we heading?
There's a midden run round the back of all these buildings. Comes out to the wee alley at the end.
You think he might use such?
Oh, he's slippery enough.
Oh. Looks like someone beat us to it.
I thought you might come this way, Donny.
Out of my way, Jean Brash.
This wee gun says different. You hurt Jessie Morgan. She was under my protection.
So?
Tit for tat.
You haven't got the nerve.
2 bullets, no to kill, just leave you on the ground for the police to find.
I'll make it easy. See? Dead close. Now try your luck.
I will.
Too bad. Now it's my turn. My guy knife at your neck. 1 cut. Kiss me goodbye.
These wee guns are no worth a damn. Try to get round his back. I'll give you 1 chance. Don't miss, for God's sake.
I have an eagle, sir. I have an eagle.
Eagle? Dearie me. Well, Donny, you're a busy boy these days.
Busy enough to cut her throat?
No matter to me. You're my target, Donny, and I have my revolver to hand.
Oh, I'm right behind her, McCleavey, and you're no that good a shot.
If I hit Mistress Brash, I'll get you with the next bullet. But, you see here, Donny, you fancy yourself with a knife, eh?
No man better.
I'll take you on, bare-handed. See? There. My revolver. To the ground. Let the woman go. Hardly worth the bother. Weak as water. Insubstantial. Are you up for it?
Ready for blood.
Remember that, James McCleavey.
Step out, Donny.
That'll be my pleasure.
You broke my hand. Is that all? I'll take the gutty knife, thank you.
My God, Constable, what kind of stick is that?
Hornbeam. Carved it myself.
We'll make a policeman out of you yet, Mulholland.
If one of you 2 heroes could help me up... Thank you.
Here's your gun.
You're better off with your derringer.
So, weak as water, eh?
A necessary subterfuge. On your way before the lieutenant arrives.
Are you sure?
I am.
What if Donny names me?
Who's going to believe him?
Right enough, eh, Mr. Shields?
We have sufficient complication as it is. Now, on your way.
I am in your debt, James.
Pay it with coffee.
What about Jessie and Hannah?
In the lap of the gods, Jeannie. In the lap of the gods.
Are you sure you won't have a cup of tea, gentlemen?
No, thank you, Mistress Forsyth.
Jardine the apothecary's some streets from here. We paid him a visit, and his ledgers reveal... You tell it, Constable.
2 weeks ago, you bought a quantity of strychnine.
An infestation of rats.
Your husband died of strychnia poison.
So you have informed me.
Sweet biscuits, macaroons.
I baked them. His favourites.
Which he ate that very night.
And I must ask you, did you put poison in the wee sweetie biscuits?
And why would I do that?
2 women stand accused of your husband's murder. Drabs, prostitutes, fallen angels, call them what you will.
If found guilty, they will hang by the neck.
Would you carry their deaths upon your Christian conscience?
He pleasured himself with these women. Not saved, pleasured.
How did you find out, ma'am?
A malady. He brought it home. A mild case, the doctor said. he could not look me in the eye. The man can transmit and hardly even suffer.
Did you face your husband out with us?
I prayed for guidance, and answer came. Let him suffer also. Let him feel the hand of God come down hard. I did not mean to kill, only punish. But that contrite heart of his must have burst in shame.
Are you certain of 5 lumps?
Sure as the castle. I left the woman with Mulholland. Her bread was still in the oven. Needed another half an hour. Thought you might appreciate the news.
I do indeed. Oh, that's a terrible noise.
You get used to it.
The source of the infection.
Previous disciples, I would have thought. Big-nosed Kate.
Oh.
The woman's notorious.
I have a feeling young Jessie Morgan is better out of Edinburgh.
I would agree.
I'll find her a place somewhere.
What about Hannah Semple?
I was thinking of a job here.
Doing what exactly?
Keeper of the keys. Oh. I need somebody to hold the girls in order.
I should manage that all right.
What about Mary Forsyth?
An upright woman, bread in the oven, a good lawyer and charitable works. She might get lucky. Here. You don't have to dance at my wedding, but you may replenish my coffee. Ah, a fragrant brew, indeed.
It's called Temptation's Pleasure.
Is that a fact?
I owe you for Donny Shields.
You have a nice throat. Pity to see it otherwise.
I am prepared to offer you a special treat.
Uh-huh.
It's a sweetie biscuit with almond dusting. Macaroon. They're all the rage.
The lieutenant was not best pleased when I relayed my tidings. A respectable man who hired disciples for religious shenanigans and then took back the undesirable side effects to a decent wee wifey at home. She prayed for guidance and was told by the Almighty to poison the lecherous bugger. Jessie and Hannah will get away lightly, but I imagine a heavy sentence awaits Donny Shields, and I trust every minute is like an eternity. I may have stumbled upon a constable, Mulholland, who has fashioned himself a hornbeam stick to fell an elephant. I'll put up with him a wee while longer. Just the one thing puzzles me. How come Jean Brash had these macaroons to hand? I had just that minute told her the method of death. Was it coincidence? I am no great believer in coincidence. Was she ahead of me in some way? Couldn't be possible. Her green eyes were full of mischief as she offered up that sweetie biscuit, and I popped it in like a holy wafer, crunched and swallowed down. So far, I'm still alive, drinking my terrible coffee and dreaming of temptation's pleasure. I look down on my city. Every street, every alley, every wind, nook and cranny, every crevice contains a crime that waits for me like a lover. I am James McCleavy, Inspector of Police. Let the journey begin, and let the battle commence.
In Meet James McCleavey by David Ashton, James McCleavey was played by Brian Cox, Jean Brash by Siobhan Redmond, Mulholland, Michael Percival Maxwell, Roach, David Ashton, Hannah, Colette O'Neill, Robert Forsyth, Tony Cowney, Donnie Shields, Kieran Gallagher, Mary Forsyth, Catherine Howden, Jessie, Gemma McElhinney, and Jarvis by Robert Jack. Other parts were played by the cast. Directed in Glasgow by Bruce Young.
Next up is Inspector Thorne in an episode called Mortal Term.
John Castle plays Detective Superintendent Thorne, and Andrew Branch, Detective Sergeant Abbott. John Sampson, Hugh Royston, Headmaster of Corriston College, and Victoria Carling, his wife Sylvia, in John Penn's murder mystery Mortal Term, which has been dramatised by Melville Jones. The play is set in the Cotswolds. Mortal Term.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen.
Please, everyone, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, I hope, an amiable social occasion, so I'll try not to spoil it with a lengthy head magisterial address. Firstly, thank you for coming. I know how frantic you can be on the first day back. I hope you all enjoy the holidays, and that we at least get some decent weather this summertime. In particular, let me welcome our new linguist, Stephen Layton, who will be with us for this term at least. Is Mr. Layton here?
I think he's over in the language laboratory, Headmaster.
Thank you, John. Well, there's enthusiasm for you. I expect you all know, given the speed at which news travels in our small community, that I was married in the holidays. Thank you very much. Sylvia is keen to get to know you all as quickly as possible, but she wants me to ask you to be as patient as you can while she gets used to our ways. Isn't that right, Sylvia?
Yes. Please.
I hope you will all introduce yourselves in the course of the evening, and before the term is out, Sylvia and I intend to have invited everyone on the staff to dinner with us here. Just a very brief word of shop. On a more mundane note, I'm informed of 3 pupils who have not yet arrived. Helen Quarry reports that Jane Hillmore is not back. And perhaps less surprisingly, Mark Joyner tells me that Pearson and Geary have not put in an appearance.
Take it you don't altogether approve then, Francis.
Well, it's nothing to do with me. Who knows his own mind, I suppose?
Perhaps. But I should say you were closer to him than anyone, had his confidence, protected him from the rest of us and all that.
I'm only his secretary, John. He doesn't tell me everything.
Yes, perhaps not. Did he tell you where he met her?
Not in so many words, but it seems it was a whirlwind courtship.
So where did you meet each other? Or am I being too nosy?
No, of course not. We met at Christmas, a hotel. My aunt and I, we always went away for Christmas.
Your aunt?
Yes. I lived with her. My parents died when I was small.
Oh, I see.
Hugh was staying at the same hotel.
Oh, I wondered where you went in the holidays. You'll find there are no secrets in our caring community.
Really?
Oh, we're not that bad. In fact, we're quite nice, really, Mrs. Royston.
I'm sure. And please, I'd much rather you called me Sylvia. Can't get used to Mrs. Royston.
Then Sylvia it shall be. And look, if it ever gets a bit much, just pop in for a natter. I promise I'll talk about anything except school. It'll do me good. Coping with the problems of adolescent girls 24 hours a day can be a bit traumatic.
Complaining already, are you, Helen?
I tell you, John, 4 weeks holiday is not enough.
Now, you mustn't depress Mrs. Royston on her first day with us. May I introduce myself, John Quarry, your husband's deputy.
Hello, I've heard such a lot about you. From Hugh.
Here you are.
I know he depends on you a great deal.
Ah, yes, I see.
And I've asked Mrs. Royce, no, I'm sorry, I mean Sylvia, to call in and see us whenever she feels
Of course, yes, always
And
welcome.
you must come and meet Ruth, my wife, in Tarbert.
Tarbert?
There's my schoolhouse, the cross I bear.
A cross, indeed. Word has just come through. Pearson and Geary.
Oh, Lord, where are they?
At the station, it seems, with no money for a taxi. They expect someone to pick them up.
The cheek!
That little sods should have their backsides tanned years ago.
Oh, John, really?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Royston, but boys like that...
But I thought that you told me there wasn't any corporal punishment at Coriston.
Oh, don't worry, there isn't. Your husband abolished it when he arrived. You'd approve, no doubt.
Well, I hadn't really thought.
With reprobates like Pearson and Geary, it's really the only thing.
Well, I can't go. This is my fault.
Surely.
And I wouldn't cross the road to fetch them.
Well, somebody will have to do it. We can't just leave them there, much as we'd like to.
Oh, I suppose I'd better see if Ruth can go, just when she'll be trying to get the kids to bed.
Can't I? I've only had one drink.
You? Well, really, that's very kind of you, but why should you? It's our problem.
No, I'd like to, really. Be useful in some way. But this is your party. I'm sure no one would mind. Honestly, I think I prefer it. Get some air. I'm not really much good at parties, small talk, that sort of thing. I'll tell Hugh. Get my car keys.
You're quite sure you don't want me to come with you?
Quite sure. I know the way to the station. I'll only be gone a few minutes. You enjoy the party.
Oh, this is really very kind of you.
Not at all. To tell the truth, I'm glad to be out in the fresh air. I enjoyed the drive.
Ah, Paula! Getting a breather.
No, I was sent to fetch Steve Layton. He was lost in the language lab.
Just getting the hang of the system before my first class tomorrow. I'm sorry, I haven't introduced everybody.
Hello, I'm Paula Danby. I teach English. Hello.
Steve Layton, the new linguist. Knew everything, my first job.
Really?
Well, what about you? Have you been here long? No, of course not. You're far too young for that. So what do you teach?
This is Mrs. Royston, the headmaster's wife.
Oh, Lord, I'm sorry. I should have... But I didn't think. I mean, you look so...
Young. Is that it, Steve?
No,
We'd better get on. Mrs. Royston's going to the station to pick up some late arrivals.
So I heard. The dreaded Pearson and Geary. That's very public-spirited of you. No, I'm pleased to. Well, watch that minibus. It's like a tank to drive. I'll get the keys then and show you where the brute is.
This is really very good of you, Mrs. Royston. And quite a surprise. Isn't it, Tony? Absolutely. We never saw our headmaster as the marrying kind.
Really? Are you all right in the back there, Jane? You're very quiet. I'm all right, thank you.
Jane's the quiet, studious type. Aren't you, Jane, dear?
It's left here, isn't it? I'm not too sure yet.
Yes, left at the garage.
Oh, the gearbox is very heavy.
You're doing fine, Mrs. Royston. Not far now. You'll be able to go back to your party. Yes. Oh, they've left you some drinks.
Oh, I don't mind it.
Look out!
Oh, no.
Good night. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Layton. I hope you had a chance to meet all your colleagues.
Yes. Thanks very much, Headmaster. I'm sorry I was late. I got a bit engrossed.
Not at all. I'm very impressed by your enthusiasm. Please, don't hesitate to ask for help or advice if you need it.
Thank you.
I can just remember what it was like to be starting in the profession. I'm sure you'll find us a friendly lot. Isn't that right, Paula?
Oh, yes. Most of the time.
Have you moved back into college yet, or are you still...
No, I moved back this afternoon. Knowing how generous you are with the sherry, I thought I'd better not risk the drive home.
Paula has bought herself a lovely thatched cottage, away from it all.
If you stay with us, Steve, I suggest you look for something outside the wire. It helps to keep you sane.
Now, come on. Don't frighten him off, after all.
Headmaster, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a call for you in the office.
Oh, well, is it urgent? I'd rather...
Yes, I'm afraid it is. It's very urgent.
There's a WPC with her, sir, trying to calm her down. It's the shock, you see.
But she's definitely not hurt.
No, sir, not physically.
And the little boy?
Not very good at all, I'm afraid. Rushed him straight to the infirmary.
But he will be all right.
I wouldn't like to say, sir. It's too early.
And his family? You've contacted them, I imagine.
It happened more or less outside their front door. Terrible for them. He was chasing a football, you know how these little kids do. Ran right out. Your wife had no chance.
No, of course.
There were witnesses, so there shouldn't be a problem.
Problem?
For your wife, an inquest, if the lad doesn't...
I'm sure he'll pull through, Sergeant.
Yes. Your wife was naturally very distressed, Mr. Royston. I'm sorry we had to...
Had to what?
Any accident of this nature, we have to take a breath test. You do understand?
But no. Sylvia had drunk very little.
It only takes very little, sir. But the test was negative.
Of course it was. I told you.
It upset your wife, made the shock worse. This was a very serious accident.
Precisely. An accident. My wife was in no way to blame.
Yes, sir, we know that. But you may have to convince her.
Oh, Sylvia, please.
I'm sorry, but I can't forget. Every time I close my eyes, I see him running out right in front.
Oh, this is hopeless. It's been over a week. You've hardly slept at all.
You really ought to take these tablets.
I keep thinking if only I hadn't taken the minibus, been so confident.
Look, we've been through all this. It wouldn't have made any difference. He just ran out.
I was trying to be so helpful going to meet those boys. Showing what an asset I could be to you. How I could cope.
Stop it, please. What's the point of all this? It can't change anything. Everyone understands. They've all told you.
They feel sorry for me, Hugh. But if that little boy dies...
He's not going to die.
Will they still feel sorry for me, or will they blame me? And why shouldn't they? I blame myself.
Well, after that pounding, I suppose it might class as Philip.
I shouldn't get into too much trouble. They would probably cry off anyway. I gather she still isn't able to face things. Some headmaster's wife she proved.
John, please behave tonight. Don't provoke Hugh.
I'm sure mince would have been just as good.
My God.
Well, what now?
Well, you don't suppose Sylvia's a vegetarian, do you?
I'm sure we'd have heard. Major piece of gossip like that?
Yes, of course. Francis would have told me.
Oh, indeed. Not a sparrow falls, but the school secretary.
Particularly where Sylvia's concerned. It's pathetic how jealous she is of her.
Jealous? Is that the word? Surely Francis didn't yearn for our leader's body.
Not all jealousy is sexual, John Quarry. Surprising as that may be to you, she resents the ending of her special relationship, the confidentiality.
Oh, possibly. No, what I said, only in emergencies. I'll get it. Look, Paula. Problems?
I'm sorry, John. I wouldn't have disturbed.
Come on through. Helen's pounding the lifeblood out of a steak.
I didn't think it could wait until the morning. Hello, Helen. Sorry about this. Duty evening, is it? Yes. Steve Leighton and I are on. I've left him at the scene of the crime.
Oh, dear. Who's done what to whom and why? Pearson and Geary again?
Not this time, though they are amongst the crowd. No, it's a girl, and a most unlikely one.
Really? One of ours?
Jane Hillmore.
Jane Hillmore?
But she wouldn't say boo to a goose. Well, so I would have thought.
Well, what's she supposed to have done?
Steve and I were doing the rounds. There was this sudden commotion from one of your day rooms. We found a crowd clustered around Jane. She'd fallen on the stairs, cut herself.
Oh, an accident. Well, I thought you said...
She was carrying a bottle of gin. Jane Hillmore? Oh, but that's extraordinary. She's not like that. She's got very strict old-fashioned hair.
Are you sure about this gin?
She admits it.
Well, where the hell did she get it?
From your study. At least that's what she said.
She went into my study and stole a bottle of gin.
So it seems.
Oh, where's she now?
I got a couple of prefects to take her to matron. Thought it best to have her out of the way.
Oh, quite right. Although I suppose the whole school will know by now.
I'm afraid so. There was a lot of stupid giggling and snide comments when we arrived on the scene. About Sylvia Royston.
Well, what about her?
But she has a drink problem. I suspect Pearson and Geary are behind it, giving their version of the accident, but I can't prove it.
But that's dreadful. He'll be livid if he gets to hear of it.
Well, I certainly don't intend to tell him. Not about that. But he'll have to hear about this Jane Hillmore business. We can't keep that to ourselves.
And you wish to persist with this absurd explanation, Jane? Jane?
Yes, sir.
You stole, and that is the only word I can use, you stole a bottle of gin from your housemaster's study simply because you were curious to find out what it tasted like? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, but I don't believe you. I'll tell you what I think. You were put up to it, weren't you? By others. Were you bullied into it? Is that it? Well, is it? I understand that Pearson and Geary were about when this happened, and you did come back with them at the beginning of term. I know that you don't associate with them.
No, it was just me.
What is the point of protecting these people? They aren't worth it. Why should you take all the blame? Jane, if you refuse to cooperate, you make it difficult for us to help you. I think you need help. Mr. and Mrs. Quarry speak very highly of you. You have always worked hard, done your best, never been in any trouble. In fact, until now, you have been a credit to yourself, the college, and, of course, your parents. How do you think they are going to react to this news?
Oh, you won't tell them so, will you?
If I could satisfy myself that you were put up to this, forced into it, then perhaps we could deal with it ourselves. But if you refuse, I'd rather not have to tell them, believe me. Come on, Jane, calm down. I expect we can sort something out. Oh, dear. Here, use my handkerchief.
Don't touch me.
What?
Don't touch me. Don't come near me.
Would you come in, please, Francis? At once. Please, stay here with Jane until she's calmed down. When she's pulled herself together, ask Mrs. Quarry to take her back to the house, will you? I'll discuss it with her later. I shall be with the chairman of the governors until lunch.
There was a call for you. It's important. Sergeant Court would like you to ring him.
Did he say what it was about?
He wouldn't tell me. He insisted on speaking to you.
That's it then, Mr. and Mrs. Rawson. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Well, at least it's over. The uncertainty.
Is it, Hugh, really?
The coroner's just said you were totally exonerated. Death by misadventure.
Oh, why did they have to bring their other boy with them? I kept looking at him, thinking that if Billy had lived, he would have grown up to look like his brother.
Nothing's going to bring the lad back. But I promise, I'll go and see the family, if I can help in some way.
Yes, but the way she looked at me when I was giving evidence.
Sylvia, it won't be easy to forget this thing. It'll take time, but it really is over. And please, do make an effort not to brood, please, darling, for both our sakes.
I will try to. I promise. I know I haven't been much help in the last few weeks. And I was so keen to be a model headmaster's wife.
You are, believe me. And things will be quite different now. There'll be plenty going on. The last half of the summer term is frantic. I shall need all the help you can give me.
Shut, John! If he keeps this up, we could win. It's the first time we've beaten the sixth form for years.
As long as he doesn't get carried away. He's nearly run their head out a couple of times already.
What fun that would be.
Yes, that would really be pistols at dawn stuff.
Have they always been, well, sort of what, Steve? Well, wary of each other.
Ah, you've noticed. You must be settling in.
John's been here for years, part of the furniture. I suppose you couldn't expect him to welcome all the changes Hugh has made.
Particularly as he was pretty confident of getting Hugh's job. More or less promised it, he says.
So why didn't he?
New chairman of the governors, Lord Penmerith.
Oh, he's here today. I was introduced to him.
Oh, yes. Takes a close interest in his chattels, does his lordship.
And he wanted someone from outside. A new broom, is that it?
So it appears. He's an enlightened Tory, a progressive peer.
Not the sort to appreciate John Quarry's fundamentalist views on education.
I see. Well, it's always wheels within wheels, isn't it?
You're learning, Steve. You're learning.
How's that?
Oh, Lord, he's out. I'd better get my pads on.
You're not in for a long time yet.
There could be a sudden collapse.
Optimist.
I was hoping someone would bowl at me in the nets. Get my eye in.
Indeed, it could all depend on you, Steve.
Oh, don't.
I'll boil a few at you when you're padded up.
Thanks.
Oh, better bring a new box of balls.
Where are they kept?
Cupboard, in the groundsman's shed. Look, over there, where the mowers are.
Thanks, will do.
What's so funny?
Steve, he's still an innocent, isn't he? I suppose we must have been like that once.
Youthful enthusiasm.
How's he getting on? In the house?
Oh, he's keen enough, a bit naive, tends to believe the best of everybody, but that's hardly a fault.
There's another innocent.
What? Oh, well, at least she's back in circulation. Still looks very strained.
I don't suppose the poor thing had any idea what she was letting herself in for when Hugh swept her off her feet.
No, well, she's been unlucky, hasn't she? In that terrible accident, not her fault, of course, but I don't suppose Penmerith welcomed the publicity, the inquest, and so on. Then there's this Jane Hillmore business.
But that was all hushed up, wasn't it?
Oh, Hugh had to tell the governors before someone else did. You know what it's like here.
I see. No wonder she looks nervous. Poor little Sylvia.
Yes. We certainly can't afford any more trouble this term.
Drink, drugs, sex. Just the modern equivalent of wine, women, and song. Whereas our parents indulged in wine, women, and song. Not mine. What's this been adulterated with? Best quality, he told me. And at that price. I don't know why we bother. It does nothing for me. We bother, old friend, because if we didn't, we'd be like all the rest of them. Sheep. Pitiful, bleating sheep.
Oh, cheer up. We've all but finished with this dump. A few more weeks.
There's a small matter of A-levels.
No problems. Wicked we may be. Stupid we're not.
And then 3 years of indolence at the taxpayer's expense. Women, boom.
All the good things of life.
What the hell's going on here? I asked. You idiots. You think I don't recognise the smell? I haven't just come out of the ark, you know.
Please believe us, sir. We don't make a habit of it. It was just an experiment.
Where did you get it?
Not from anybody in the school. I give you my word on that.
Your word, Pearson. What value can I set on that?
Fair enough. I've been in trouble before, both of us. Most of the time we've been here. But we're not liars. You can ask anybody.
Look, sir, we admit it was stupid, but we're not harming anybody else.
How much of this have you got?
There. Just what's in that tin. Really, that's all.
Please, sir, couldn't you just forget this happened?
Forget?
We're leaving after A-levels. In just a few weeks we'll be shot of Coriston for good. But if you report us now, it could muck everything up. University places, references for jobs, our whole future, really.
Well, shouldn't you have thought of that before?
Yes, we were stupid. But it's only pot, sir. You've just left university. A lot of people must have smoked it there.
That's not the point.
I mean, you should understand how it is, sir. You're not like the rest of them. You're young.
I'm a member of staff at this school. I have responsibilities.
But no one need know. Look, it won't happen again, really. And it's only pot. Nothing really heavy.
I doubt if the headmaster would see it quite like that.
But you don't have to tell him, sir. Do you?
You give me your word that you've got no more.
Of course. You can search our studies.
You'll be gone before long. I don't want to feel that this incident would ruin the future for you. But I want your solemn promise that you'll have nothing more to do with drugs.
You have our word on that, Mr. Layton.
Don't make me regret my decision.
Oh, we won't, sir. You'll see.
Right. Now, get on out and watch the cricket.
Yes, sir.
Where we can all see you. Oh, I hope I know what I'm doing. Now, cricket balls.
Hello. Mark has got trapped by her parent. No net, I'm afraid.
Oh.
Wasn't that Pearson and Geary I saw coming out?
Yes.
He looked even more furtive than usual. What had they been up to, I wonder? Wait a minute. Were they smoking?
Yes, they were.
So what are you going to do?
Paula, I need to tell someone. I may have just made a terrible mistake, but... Well, I think it would be over the top to make a huge scene out of this. You see,
Look, Steve, this is not just a prank.
Please let me explain my reasons. And, Paula, you must keep this just between us.
Oh, is it all over? Who won?
We're still going on, Francis, but I think we can hold out for a draw. Have you seen my wife?
She's checking the place settings for dinner, I believe.
Oh, I see. Is everything in order?
I really can't say, Headmaster.
Oh, but I thought... that-
Mrs. Royston seemed to want to supervise everything personally.
Well, I'm sure she wanted to be a success, her first governor's dinner, but you have always...
Indeed. You always left the details to me. I did offer.
Yes. Anything important coming this afternoon?
I don't think so. Oh, yes. I've typed up Paula's reference for you to sign.
Oh, well, thank you.
Can't imagine why she wants to go to Australia.
Perhaps you should ask her.
Well, she's a good friend, but she's never really confided in me.
I suppose she's been here for some time and she's looking for promotion. Well, that looks fine.
But Australia?
She has a brother in Sydney, I believe.
Even so.
Not everyone is as devoted to Coniston as you.
Francis, did you...
Hello, darling. How are you getting on?
Fine.
It's just the flowers don't seem to have arrived.
Really?
Well, shouldn't they be here by now? I have to do the table arrangement.
What time did you order them for?
But I didn't. I assumed...
Assumed?
I thought you would see to the flowers. Hugh said you always... Oh, dear. Is it too late? Can I...
There's no need. I took the precaution of ringing the florist this morning. He said he'd deliver this afternoon. I'll go and check at the lodge. Excuse me.
Well done, Francis.
Bitch.
Sylvia, oh, that's hard.
She knew all the time. She was just enjoying it, humiliating me.
Oh, that's not fair. She was just being efficient.
Oh, and I suppose I wasn't.
I didn't mean that. You're doing marvellously. But I know it can't be easy for you. We're trying to get the hang of this place.
I don't know if I ever will, Hugh. If I can.
Of course you will.
Those who don't resent me either pity me or patronize
I'm
me.
sure that's not the case. It's just that it takes...
Time? Is that it? But how much? How much time do they need?
Remember, the purpose of this trial exam, ladies and gentlemen, is to reproduce the exact conditions you'll meet in the real thing in a couple of weeks' time. So we will follow all the procedures. Therefore, I will inform you when you have 30 minutes left. Right, you may now turn the papers over and begin.
Rock-a-bye, baby.
Quiet.
Stop when the wind
Who is making that ridiculous noise? Jane, what's the matter with you?
Oh.
Ha! Are you ill, Jane? What's wrong?
It's far from well to me, sir. What do you think, Terry? Very under the weather, I'd say.
All right, shut up, you two. And the rest of you. Good God, Jane, are you all right? Quiet, everyone! Quiet, I say!
I'm sorry, Hugh, but I feel desperately upset for the poor child. She's been worried to death for the last few weeks. She's overwhelmed with guilt.
I wish I could feel as charitable, Helen.
She's an innocent Hugh. If she was the brazen sort, I'd feel differently. I know it's an old-fashioned thing to say, but someone has taken advantage of her.
I suppose there's no doubt the doctor was certain.
Either Jane has an abortion or she's going to have a baby.
Have you told the parents yet?
Francis is trying to contact them now to get them up here. It's not the sort of news you can break over the telephone. I mean, how did we allow a girl to get hold of alcohol twice within a few weeks? It doesn't say much for our pastoral care, does it?
I hope you're not implying that Helen and I have been negligent.
Well, she is in your house, John.
That's hardly fair. For heaven's sake, it happens from time to time. There's no proof that one of our boys is the father. It could have happened in the holidays.
She refuses to say anything about it. I've tried.
We could still get an enormous amount of adverse publicity out of this. Failure to exercise proper supervision.
I'm sorry, but I don't see what more we could have...
Where did she get hold of the gin this time?
Yesterday afternoon, in an English lesson, Paula sent her to get a book from her room, and she took it then. Paula's very upset about it, but she's sure her drink was locked away.
Oh, it's not her fault. I suppose I'm to blame as much as anybody.
But why?
The last time, when she was in here...
What?
She was in some distress, crying. I tried to comfort her. She shied away, hysterically.
Oh, you never said.
Didn't I?
No, you didn't. Oh, Hugh.
Come in.
Headmaster, I've managed to contact the parents. They'll be here at 2:00.
Thank you. John, I'd like you and Helen here as well.
Yes, very well.
I'll see all her stuff is packed ready.
Thank you.
Headmaster, I wonder if I might have a word.
Yes, of course.
This is very difficult for me, betraying a confidence. But in the circumstances...
Yes?
You know the feelings I have for the school, Headmaster.
I know you always act in our interest, and I respect your judgment absolutely. So, what is it you would like to tell me?
This has not been a good term, has it? There have been, well, a number of difficulties.
Indeed.
Of course, I'm only the school secretary, and perhaps matters of school discipline are no concern of mine, but in the present circumstances, I didn't feel, in all honesty, that I could remain silent, knowing what I do.
Which is?
Well, Paula is one of the few members of staff I could call more than just an acquaintance. Not a close friend, perhaps, but we get on well together.
Yes, so I understand.
Well, she feels very guilty that it was her drink that Jane Hillmore stole.
Oh, she needn't. I know about that. It could have happened to anyone. If that's what's worrying her, you can reassure her
It's
that...
not just that. She realizes that the school can hardly stand another scandal. Drink, pregnancy, they're all bad enough. But drugs...
Drugs?
Yes. I gather at the time she was prepared to give an inexperienced colleague the benefit of the doubt. But in the light of recent events, well, her conscience has troubled her. She needed to confide in someone. I suppose I am now betraying that confidence. But there is such a thing as duty, isn't there?
Inexperience? You showed a total lack of ordinary common sense. Didn't you realize you had a duty to file a full report?
I confiscated what they had. They swore that was all. I thought that as they were soon leaving,
In a
it
school
might...
of this kind, as you should have realized, we cannot afford a breath of scandal. The press always devours stories of public school depravity, or hadn't you noticed?
Well, I just thought that...
No, the trouble is you didn't think.
I can only say I'm sorry, Headmaster.
That's all very well. But I have to say the incident raises serious doubts as to your suitability for a school of this kind. As you know, your position is a probationary one.
And you won't be making it permanent? Am I right?
I'm sorry, but I think it would be wise for you to look elsewhere.
I have to say, I think you're overreacting, Headmaster. Perhaps it was an error of judgment to trust the boys, but I...
Yes? I see. I was afraid of that. Yes, at once, please. Both of them. That was Mr. Joyner. I asked him to search the boys' rooms. It seems, as I suspected, that your trust was seriously misplaced.
I'm telling the truth. It's not ours.
You told Mr. Layton you had no more. You told your housemaster you
It
had
was true,
no...
sir. We didn't.
And how do you explain this?
Someone must have planted it.
Please, don't insult my intelligence. I simply don't believe you, either of you.
That's your privilege, sir.
And don't be insolent, Pearson. It won't help you.
Sir, all we've done is smoke a few joints on school property.
All you've done. That alone is illegal.
Yes, but it's not exactly a major crime these days. It's not like trading in heroin or robbing a bank.
That will do.
Or having a little too much to drink and running someone over with a minibus.
I warn you,
We were
dearie.
there. Remember? We know.
How dare you?
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean...
There is no point in further discussion. I propose to expel you both from Coniston forthwith. I shall telephone your parents immediately.
But now? At this stage? I mean, what about our A-levels? University?
That is no longer my concern.
But it's not fair, not for what we did.
As I said, there is no point in further discussion. You will wait in your studies until your parents...
If you do this, if you expel us, we won't take
You have no choice. Now, will you both...
We'll get back at you. You and this rotten bloody school.
Geary!
I don't think that we can't. You'll see.
I'm very glad you could join me.
Honestly, I haven't played for ages.
Can you spare a moment?
Well, we're just about to go on court.
It is important, darling.
Do you mind, Sylvia?
Well, actually, it's both of you that we'd like to talk to, isn't it, Mark?
Yes, if we may.
I hope you two haven't come with more bad news. An hour with Jane's parents was pretty depressing, I can tell you.
Let's sit down, shall we?
Ah, that tone means you have. So?
Pearson and Geary.
Yes, I heard. Well, what's happening to them? Gated? Suspended until A-level?
No. Hugh is expelling them.
But surely... I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, Sylvia, that's not very fair. It sounds as if I'm getting at Hugh.
I'm sure you're not, but perhaps I should leave you to...
No, if you don't mind. We'd like to ask for your help.
Mine?
Yes. To intercede with your husband.
On behalf of the boys? Well, I would if I thought it would help, but why should you listen to me? I'm not really in a position.
I've spoken to Pearson and Geary. They're confined to the house until their parents arrive. I think your husband may have been provoked by a very thoughtless and stupid remark one of them made. It was said in the heat of the moment, not meant.
What remark?
When they lose their cool, boys say things, stupid things. One should try not to pay too much attention.
But what remark? Please tell me what he said, please.
They were suggesting you were drunk. They made vile accusations. Surely you realize that.
Oh, Hugh, they were only repeating what everyone else has been saying. Did you think I was unaware of it? You may think I'm a little naive.
Sylvia, I've made my decision. I don't need to apologize or explain to anyone.
Not even to me.
I'm sorry, but this is a matter for my professional judgment. It's a question of what's best for the school.
Damn, Coriston. All you can ever think of is the school. What you ought to be thinking about is the future of those boys and that poor girl. Have you done what's best for them? Or have you just got rid of them because they might damage the good name of Coriston College?
That's enough, Sylvia. There's no point in this. It's been a difficult term, but it's nearly over. We'll take a long holiday, and when we come back...
When we come back, Coriston will still be here.
Sylvia, when you married me, you knew this was my world.
Yes, your world. But I'm not sure it's mine.
Francis, ask John to take the last assembly for me, will you?
Oh, isn't that rather...
Lord Penmerith rang last night. He wants to see me. I dare say I shall be with him most of the morning.
Hardly the most convenient time.
I didn't think it prudent to argue the way things are.
I see.
Oh, and tell John I'll check with him later. Make sure there'll be no last-minute disasters. Is there anything needs my attention here at the moment?
The Oxford Conference organisers want to know if you and Mrs. Royston will join them for dinner tomorrow after your talk.
No, I don't think so. I'll have to come straight back here. Can you make our excuses, Francis?
Right.
Oh, by the way, how is the move going?
Oh, Paula expects to be out in the next couple of weeks, and then I shall move into her cottage. Mrs. Royston still away, is she?
Yes, another day or two, I dare say.
Oh, dear. Her aunt no better then.
Not much, it seems. Anything important in the mail?
No, mostly routine stuff that will keep. Oh, one marked personal for you. Actually, if you'll forgive me saying so, it looks rather like your wife's handwriting.
Oh.
News about her sick aunt, I dare say.
Yes, I expect so. I'll be in the study, finishing off reports. Let me know as soon as Penmerith arrives, will you? Dear Hugh, I hope this won't come as too much of a shock, but I've decided to stay away from Coniston. I expect you can guess why. I need more time to sort out what I really think about us. All I am sure of is that at the moment I can't stand any more of the school. Please don't try to find me. I promise I'll be in touch when I am more certain of my feelings. All my love, Sylvia. Oh, God.
It's so peaceful now. Be a lovely place without the kids, wouldn't it?
They went off all right anyway.
Oh, good as gold.
At least something went smoothly. Perhaps I should have brought Penmerith and all his troop of school governors out to watch the departure. Convince him I could do something right.
Bad, was it?
Not good. I thought for a moment you were about to see your wish come true.
What wish?
Oh, come on, John. It's not a secret, is it? You must have been a very disappointed man when I arrived here.
Oh, yes, I suppose I was. But I've long ago got over that.
I wonder.
Hugh, I've never done anything
Why didn't you tell me you'd made arrangements for Pearson and Geary to take their A-levels at another school?
Oh, I see. That. The parents contacted me in great distress. It was a fairly simple administrative matter.
Which you didn't want to bother me with.
No, all right. I backed my own judgment. But you know what I felt about the expulsion.
Well, as it turned out, you did me a good turn. It seems the parents were going to make a great issue out of it. Demand a meeting with the governors and so on. Your simple administrative matter spared me that.
Oh, well, good.
It's nice to know one still has some friends.
I'm sure you have many.
Yes. But, John, who hates me enough to want to destroy me?
Hates you? That's a bit strong, isn't it?
Is it? Read that.
Good grief. This is just filth. Stupid obscenity. Where did it come from?
Sent anonymously to Lord Penmerith.
But he didn't believe it, surely.
No, I don't think he did. He told me to tear it up. Well, maybe he'd had moments of doubt about appointing a middle-aged bachelor as head, but I don't suppose he seriously considered me to be... Well, what that letter suggests.
People who write this sort of stuff should be...
Charming, isn't it? The headmaster is a dirty old man. If he can get us girls alone...
Forget it, Hugh. Do as he says. Tear it up. It's rubbish.
You're right.
Come on. First day of the holidays tomorrow, your conference in Oxford, a civilized occasion. You'll see it all differently.
Do your belt up.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for stopping. There ain't much traffic. A lorry driver offered me a lift, but, well, I didn't think it was a very good idea.
Quite right. You really shouldn't be hitchhiking at all. How old are you?
15. My mum would half kill me if she knew.
Then why are you?
I didn't have a choice. My purse was nicked.
Oh, where?
I got the bus from Reading to Oxford this morning. I was going to do a bit of shopping, buy my aunt a present.
Your aunt?
Yeah, she lives in Coriston. I'm going to see her. Her name's Gail, too. Do you know her?
No, I don't think so. So, your name is Gail.
That's right. Moira Gail.
And you lost your purse?
Yeah. I bought this scarf, see? I remember putting the bits of change in my pocket, and then when I went to get a coffee, I hadn't got my purse. So I went back to the scarf counter, but the girl couldn't find it. She looked everywhere. Someone must have nicked it.
So you had no money for the bus?
Just a bit of change. And that got me to Woodstock, and I walked from there.
You were lucky I came along. The Coriston Road is fairly quiet.
Yeah, it was. Thanks. Do you live in Coriston?
Close by, at the college.
That posh school? Oh, sorry. You're a teacher, then?
Yeah.
Thought you were.
Really? Why?
The way you sort of told me off for hitchhiking.
Ah, I see. Well, it is a bit stupid.
What subject do you teach?
Actually, I'm the headmaster.
Oh. We've got a headmistress. She's a real pain.
It's not easy, you know, being a head these days. As I've just been telling 300 of them in a lecture. You see, Moira...
Could you stop, please? Quickly.
What is it?
I feel sick. Sorry.
Oh, dear.
I'm sorry. It's so stupid. Oh, I'd better get out.
You all right?
I feel a bit faint. I need some air.
Here, just walk about a bit. Come on, I'll take you.
Let go of me. Let go.
Moira, what's the matter with you?
Get away. Help.
For God's sake, girl.
Detective Superintendent Thornton. Yes, sir, Sergeant Abbott is with me. He has all the details, such as they are. It isn't quite the sort of thing I'd be expecting to deal with. I see, very good. I'll let you know as soon as I've formed a judgment. Of course, as soon as possible. Attempted rape on the Coriston Road, that's all we've got. I thought we were meant to be part of this serious crime squad.
Yeah, I know, sir, but it seems the chairman of the school governors and the chief constable are good friends.
In the same Masonic lodge, I expect. Forget I said that, Sergeant.
Never heard a syllable, sir.
Well, I suppose if the police authority can spare a superintendent and a sergeant for a spin in the Cotswolds on such a lovely sunny day, why should we complain?
Quite so.
I may have several unsolved serious crimes I should be investigating, but if the chief constable chooses to do a favour for an old chum, ours not to reason why, Abbott.
I suppose it is a bit unusual, this case.
Really? Unusual? What's unusual about indecent assault? Do you ever read the papers, Abbott?
No, I mean Royston being a headmaster.
Crippen was a doctor.
A lot of wealthy people send their kids to Corriston.
Oh, I see. So, of course, that makes this grubby little case special. Needs a detective superintendent to unravel it. English justice is open to all, like the writs. Who said that, Abbott?
No one I know, sir.
No, I don't suppose so, Abbott. Well, we'd better get on with it. The chief constable wants rapid results. Do the local Nick know we're coming?
Yes, sir. A Sergeant Court. He'll be looking out for us.
There you are, sir. 2 coffee, sugar and milk ready.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, sir. I just assumed it. Shall I get fresh?
Never mind, Sergeant. I don't suppose it will kill me. Not quite, anyway.
We didn't expect you to be coming down, sir. Not an affair of this kind.
Neither did I. Well, drink up, Abbott.
Yes. Very nice.
As you know, sir, these cases are usually impossible to prove. One party's word against another.
But there were witnesses. Isn't that right?
That's right. People in the car that stopped.
Reliable?
Oh, local people, decent folk, they swear that if they'd not come along, he'd have had her.
Really?
They brought her straight here.
And you contacted the girl's aunt?
Oh, that's it. I'm the police doctor.
And where was our headmaster during all this?
Oh, well, he just drove off. I went to see him later.
Yes, I've seen your report. Denied everything, of course.
Oh, said the girl suddenly flew at him.
You believe him?
I don't know what to believe.
The police doctor found no evidence of sexual assault, just a little minor facial bruising.
True, but the girl was very distressed.
And there's the evidence of the witnesses.
Indeed. Decent folk, the sergeant tells us.
They'd have no reason to dish the dirt on Royston, would they?
Well, Sergeant, would they?
No, not really.
What do you mean, not really?
Well, I'm sure they saw what they said they saw. But I suppose they might have assumed the worst, jumped to the wrong conclusion, the way things have been.
The way what things have been?
A small place like this, you always get a lot of gossip. And there's been a bit of jealousy of the college, a lot of money around up there.
So what has the local gossip been saying?
Well, first there was the accident. Mrs. Sylvia Royston, his new wife, much younger than him. She was driving the school minibus and knocked down Billy Morton, little lad in the village. He died.
But not her fault?
No, but that didn't stop the ill feeling.
You said first there was the accident. What else subsequently?
Well, nothing that's come to us officially.
But?
The gossip says there's been problems with drugs, drink, a pregnant sixth former, and certainly a couple of boys were expelled.
Sounds more like Grange Hill.
Oh, yeah. Royston could tell you more.
Yes, I suppose we'll need to know all about that, although I can't see at the moment it could have a bearing on this business. But I can't see much sense in any of it, to be frank.
Perhaps when we've seen the girl.
Yes. You've arranged that, Sergeant?
Her aunt will bring her here this afternoon, sir. 2:00.
Right. That gives us time for a decent lunch.
I'll take you up to the canteen, sir.
Thank you, but I think not. I've taken up enough of your valuable time, Sergeant. No, I saw a pub just across the road. I dare say we'll get a spot of lunch there. Give us a chance to think over what you've told us. Eh, Abbott?
Definitely, sir. Definitely. That was very nice, sir. Homemade, I'd say.
A better bet than their canteen, I think.
I say, I quite fancy a spell as a country copper.
Well, no shortage of action. Drugs, drink, rape makes Oxford seem like toy time.
Makes the case a bit more interesting, though, doesn't it?
Possibly. If there's any connection.
Do you think there might be?
Well, that raises the perennial problem of criminal detection.
Does it, sir?
Does there always have to be a linked chain of events?
Well, things just don't happen, do they?
But random chance, the bolt from the blue, and coincidence. What about coincidence? Do you believe in that, Abbott?
Well, up to a point, but...
Let me put this to you. I'm chasing a wanted villain, and police forces throughout the land are looking for him, right?
Right.
What would be the odds against him sitting 2 seats in front of me on the Headington bus?
Oh, I don't know, 1,000,000 to 1, I suppose.
Quite. But it happened. A couple of years ago.
So what you're saying...
What I'm saying is that random chance, the long shot, the unexpected coincidence have a part to play in the solution of crime.
And in this case,
I
you think...
think we'd better assume nothing until we've met the opposing party.
Until we've spoken to the girl?
Until I've spoken to the girl.
Sorry.
Your role is far more important, Abbott.
Really, sir?
Indeed. Watch her reactions very closely as I question her. Body language. Know about that?
Yes, sir. I went on the same course, if you remember.
Splendid.
It's getting on for 2, sir. Aunt's bringing her in. I think we ought to...
Just time for coffee, I think. Proper coffee this time. Drinkable coffee. Look,
Maura, I'm sorry to have to ask you to go over this again, but I'm sure you understand why I need to. It's a very serious crime.
I told the other man everything.
I know, I've read what you said. But I need to clarify one or two things. Will you help me?
All right.
Good. You say in your statement here that Mr. Royston made no attempt to touch you or say anything offensive while you were in the car. Is that right?
Yes.
So why did you get out?
I felt sick. Car sick.
Do you suffer from car sickness?
Must do, mustn't I? And I've been standing in the sun. The road was all twisty, I suppose.
And Mr. Royston got out as well?
Yeah. I thought he was just seeing if I was okay.
But he wasn't.
No. He said something. I don't remember what. And then he put his hand here. And then he started dragging me down the grass bank.
And naturally you resisted.
I tried to get him to leave go. I scratched him, I think. I was kicking and biting, but he was so strong.
And then the other car came along?
Yeah. I was lucky. It's a quiet road. If they hadn't, he would have...
I'm sorry, Maura. That's all I need to ask you. You've been very brave, but you do realise that these questions have to be asked if we are to discover the truth.
Second right, Court said. Oh, there it is. Coriston College, 1.5 miles.
She'd make a good witness, Abbott. No doubt about that.
I was impressed. Not the tarty sort.
Quite. If it came to court, she'd convince a jury, all right.
Did she convince you?
She certainly stayed with her story. No deviation from her original statement.
Which means?
Either it happened the way she said, or she's an unashamed and well-briefed little liar.
But what would be the point?
Would you have given her a lift, Abbott?
Hey? Oh,
Why not? Pretty enough, isn't she?
Oh, now, come on, sir.
Don't delude yourself. Few of us would have left a winsome little thing like that standing on the roadside.
Yeah, perhaps not.
So why did you hesitate?
Because I'm a copper. I know the dangers.
Dangers?
Well, not for the girl, not with me. But she could say anything. Make wild accusations, blackmail. It's a common dodge.
Indeed. So why did Royston stop?
Could have been quite innocent.
Of course, you could argue that as a concerned and responsible citizen, he picked her up to keep her out of the clutches of someone less virtuous.
But on the other hand...
Quite. Left here. But for the moment, Abbott, you seem to go along with the girl.
I think so.
You were watching her closely? Reactions? Mannerisms?
Oh, yes, sir. Reactions seemed natural, honest. Of course, she was tense. You'd expect that. I did wonder...
What?
Now, she was very cut up when you took her through the incident itself. Well, she would be, that's understandable. But before that, she seemed to be relaxing. Well, almost relieved.
Perhaps I'd won her confidence, Abbott. It has been known.
Of course, it could have been that.
But?
Well, I wondered if she was expecting you to ask some awkward questions which never materialised.
Maybe. If I'd known what they were, I'd have asked them like a shot. Did you notice the gold necklet?
Yes, I did. Yeah, but lots of people wear them these days.
Not cheap, though, was it?
Good quality, I thought.
Present?
No idea. Could be, I suppose. Perhaps she saved up for it from the Saturday job.
At £1 an hour? I wonder.
Sir?
Yes?
The girl. Would you have stopped for her?
Me? I'm old enough to be her father.
So is Royston.
Yes, he is. Isn't he?
Well, here we are. Oh, impressive.
Imposing Victorian Gothic. There's the sign. School office and inquiries.
All right.
If I remember my detective stories correctly, the head secretary should be a fount of all knowledge. Talk to her, particularly about the troubles this term.
She didn't sound very forthcoming on the telephone. Bit of a dragon.
Characteristic of the breed. But you'll charm it out of her, I'm sure. She'll have missed nothing. They're like that in these schools. Park here.
It says reserved for the chairman of the governors.
I'm sure his lordship would wish us to use it.
You seem to know a lot about these sort of places, sir.
I don't suppose they've changed much in 30 years. What are you grinning at, Sergeant?
Nothing. Oh. I just hadn't got you down as a public school man, sir.
I don't know whether to be flattered or offended by your observation. Come on.
And there's still no sign of her. You'd have thought she'd be by his side at a time like this.
Quite. Terrible for Hugh.
Well, you must be looking forward to getting away from it all.
I'm not sure. I feel a bit like a rat leaving the proverbial sinking ship.
You'll be well out of it. I said the same to Steve Layton this morning.
Oh, is Steve still here? I thought after he was sacked...
No. He telephoned. He's got several interviews and needs references. The head's been as tactful as possible.
Oh, good. I feel awful about that business.
You did what was right, Paula.
Maybe, but I hardly imagined Hugh would expel the boys and sack Steve.
Yes, it was all most unfortunate.
Poor you. right in the thick of it. You ought to take a week or two off. I'm getting on quite well clearing out the cottage. You should be able to move in by the end of the month.
I'm certainly looking forward to it. Oh, dear. 10 o'clock. That'll be those awful policemen.
Right. I'll just collect my mail and get out of the way. Call in for a cup of tea if you can get out to the cottage later.
I assure you, Superintendent, sex was the last thing on my mind. I thought she was ill, went to help her, and she flung herself at me. I was surprised how strong she was, slip of a girl like that.
It was quite a struggle, according to the witnesses.
I can see how it must have looked. I tried to explain, but they wouldn't listen to a word I said.
So you just drove away?
Yes. But you see, I was shocked, angry. I kept on asking myself, why did she do it? Why me?
And your answer?
I don't have one. The girl couldn't have known I'd be on that road at that particular time.
Who might have known?
Well, no one for certain.
But surely people at the school would have known you were at the conference, your secretary, colleagues, and so on.
Yes, of course. Staff, even some pupils, I suppose, if they'd care to inquire.
And your wife, I imagine?
No, probably not my wife. She's away at the moment.
Oh. But you've been in touch, told her about this business?
No, I didn't want to alarm her.
Oh. Anyway, there were plenty of people who knew you might be on your way back from Oxford about that time.
Well, yes, but not this Moira Gale, Superintendent.
I suppose not.
It must just have been random chance. Luck, bad luck.
That's one of the explanations.
Oh, what else is there? Oh, John suggested it was because I was driving an expensive car.
The white Mercedes outside, right?
Yes. When she found out I was a headmaster, perhaps I seemed a likely candidate for a spot of blackmail.
And who is John?
What? Oh, John Quarry, my deputy.
Obviously you've told him about...
Yes, he and his wife. Oh, they're not just colleagues, but friends, good friends.
So who else knows?
Half of Coriston by now. But I've only told Francis, my secretary.
And Lord Penmareth. You must have told him.
Yes. You can imagine what that was like, so soon after that obscene letter.
What letter? Tell me about this letter, sir.
A real can of worms. Once I got her talking, she couldn't stop. Oh, dear, that's one very bitter lady.
And she blames Mrs. Royston for everything.
Totally unsuited to be a headmaster's wife. Really no more than a child. Completely destroyed the head's judgment, and so on.
And where is the missing young lady, did she know?
No, but she obviously smelled several rats. I reckon she's given Royston the old heave-ho.
Oh, poor chap, more bad news.
I suppose all the trouble was in his wife running off. Well, it could have driven him over the edge, couldn't it?
Executive stress, attempted rape whilst the balance of the mind was disturbed. That's your theory?
Well, it had been one hell of a term for him. One crisis after another.
Quite. One coincidence after another.
What, sir?
Do we have a mess, or do we have a plot, Abbott?
I don't know, sir.
No. Perhaps Mr. Quarry will be able to help us. Excuse me.
Yes?
Mr. Quarry, is it?
I've nothing to say to you.
I beg your pardon.
There's no story, and if you dare to print
We're
one
not
word...
the press, Mr. Quarry. There you are.
Sir. Superintendent, is it?
Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, you'd better come inside.
That won't be necessary. Just a couple of things perhaps you could clear up.
Well, you might as well know before you begin. I believe every word that you, Mr. Royston, has told me about this wretched business. Why that girl should have told those appalling lies, I can't imagine. But lies, they certainly were.
Your loyalty does you credit, Mr. Quarry.
It's not a question of loyalty, Superintendent. I know the man.
You also know, then, that there have been accusations precisely...
What are you talking about?
Mr. Royston was very frank with me. I know about the anonymous letter. Apart from Lord Penmareth, I believe you were the only person he confided in at the time.
Yes, but that's...
Did you tell your wife?
I trust her completely. We have no secrets.
Oh, you did tell her? Not a good place for secrets, is it, Coriston?
Now, look
If,
here.
as a result of this unfortunate business, Mr. Royston were to be dismissed, do you imagine you might be appointed in his place, Mr. Quarry?
Do I have to take this? I'm not stupid, you know. I know...
Only a question, Mr. Quarry. One must face reality. I imagine the school would feel fortunate to have an experienced man to summon to the bridge, so to speak, but we must hope it doesn't come to that, mustn't we?
I don't think I can help you any further, Superintendent.
Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Now, perhaps you can point us in the right direction for... Where is it, Abbott?
Tarbit House, sir.
Mark Joyner's house. I believe he's still in school.
Hello? Someone there? Who is it? Sylvia.
Hello, Hugh.
darling, I've been so worried.
Yes, I'm sorry, Hugh, but I couldn't take any more.
Oh, it's all right. You're back. That's all that matters.
I do love you, Hugh. I know that now. It was a terrible thing I did walking out.
Oh, we'll forget it. All of it. It was mostly my fault. I get so wrapped up in this place. But I need to change things, I promise.
No, don't change. I don't want that. I just needed to grow up.
Look, we'll celebrate. Go out, have a meal.
No, let's just stay in, the two of us.
Right. A drink, then. A welcome home drink?
Yes, why not?
A double, I think.
Hugh.
Yes?
I know about the girl.
How? Who told...
And I know it's not true, Hugh. Any of it. Not one single word.
I have to confess, Abbott, it's been an interesting day. All that seething, claustrophobic resentment bottled up behind the ivy-clad walls.
Oh, very well phrased, sir.
Yes.
Royston certainly has plenty of enemies.
One of the burdens of command, Abbott. I know the feeling.
There must be half a dozen people who had a motive for getting at him.
At least half a dozen. John Quarry, who wants his job and always has done. Perhaps Mrs. Quarry, ambitious on her husband's behalf. The secretary has had her nose put out of joint by the new wife. Who does that leave us with?
That other housemaster chap, Joyner, he was still pretty cheesed off about his boys being expelled.
Quite. And then there's the boys themselves. Nasty pieces of work by the sound of them. They could have set him up. And don't forget the pregnant girl. Or at least her parents. They must have been pretty sick with Royston.
Just like the people in the village.
Which still leaves us with the sacked French teacher, Steve Layton.
And the English teacher we met in the office. She's off down under.
You don't have to have a criminal record to go there these days. Certainly a long list, isn't it?
But unless we could find a connection between someone on the list and Moira, there's no basis for a conspiracy.
Quite. Oh, yes, the answer, if there is one, would lie with Moira. We'd need to know much more about her. It would have been quite intriguing following it up.
Would have been?
Well, you don't imagine I can spend any more time on this case. The girl isn't going to press charges, too distressing for her. And without independent testimony, the Crown won't prosecute.
So we'll never know whether it was just a chance encounter, whether he did assault her.
Or whether he was the object of someone's vengeance.
The Chief Constable isn't going to be best pleased with that, is he? Oh, Lord, whatever his name is.
He wanted my professional judgment, which is that without devoting more time and resources than we have available for such a case, the matter will remain unresolved. If he doesn't like it, he can do the other thing. It may sound cynical, Abbott, but the crime isn't serious enough to take up any more of our time.
It's all right. I'm here.
Yay!
Good morning. Coriston School headmaster speaking. What? Have you got the right... Who are you? I don't think... Very well. I'm listening. Yes. At noon? Yes, I'll be there. You can be sure of that. But who the hell... Hello? Hello?
Who was it, Hugh?
Oh, no one. Just a wrong number.
Come on. Come on. Oh. You came then? I thought you would. So, you brought the money, I hope. You better have. Oh!
I don't think I shall ever get used to these places.
No, and there's something so pathetic about it all. A young girl, that's all she is, Abbott.
Poor kid.
It wouldn't have taken much force to choke the life out of her. You can see the marks on the throat.
Death by manual strangulation, you say?
Yes, but as to time of death, that sort of thing, we've had to wait for their tests to know that.
Thank you. Come along, Abbott, let's go.
Looks as if it had to be Royston, doesn't it?
Possibly.
But from what we know, the body was found by a chap out walking his dog. This chap reckons he was passed by a flash white car driven by a man.
He wasn't sure of the make of the car.
No, but forensic have identified a set of tyre tracks. They're pretty certain it was a Merc.
What did I miss, Abbott?
Miss?
I never saw murder in this one. If I had, perhaps Moira would stop.
There was no suggestion, sir. It all seemed over and done with.
Last night I was complaining this crime was too trivial for me. Bit of a sick joke now, isn't it?
You'll be bringing Royston in then, sir?
Not yet. He can't hide. We know where he is. No. First, we're going to Reading.
Reading, sir?
I want to know much more about Moira Gale. She wouldn't tell us when she was alive.
Wouldn't tell us? What do you mean?
She was playing a game with us, Abbott, and not just with us.
But we don't know that. You said so. She might have been a totally innocent party.
But that kid in there has been murdered, Abbott. That changes everything, don't you see?
No, not really.
The fruitfulness of paradox. I could believe Moira alive to be a harmless kid, a victim, but Moira dead is quite a different matter. She provoked someone enough to murder her. There's no doubt, Abbott, the poor thing was partly the architect of her own destruction.
Trying to blackmail Hugh Royston, you mean?
It's a strong probability, I agree. But there are other scenarios. Royston is an intelligent man.
So was Crippen.
Point taken. But why should he lure Moira to some remote spot to murder her and then advertise his presence by driving to and from the scene of the crime in a distinctive vehicle known to everyone in Coriston? Doesn't make sense.
But I don't suppose he meant to murder her. They don't usually, do they? Just get carried away, panic.
Perhaps. Maybe I'm being too fanciful. Come on, let's get out of this place. I dare say we'll learn more when we get to Reading.
There you are, sir. That's your room. We haven't touched anything.
I'm sorry we had to intrude at a time like this. It's very good of you to see us, with your wife unwell, too.
She's taken it very bad.
Of course. We shan't need to disturb her, but we do need your assistance.
Yes, anything I can do to nail the devil.
If you don't mind, we'll need to look through Moira's things, letters, diaries. There might be something.
Well, you carry on, but I don't know if it'll be much help. She didn't have much of a social life set up here a lot of the time, really.
No boyfriends? Parties? Discos? That sort of thing?
Well, she wasn't interested in any of that.
No? My daughter's room's plastered with posters of pop stars.
But not Moira's. Just these travel posters. Where did she get these from, Mr. Gale?
A Guernsey school trip last Easter.
Did she enjoy it?
I think so.
Think?
Well, she never told us much, but I think it must have made an impression on her.
Why do you say that?
It was her first time away from us, and it's sort of abroad, isn't it? Well, further than the wife and I have ever been. We asked her all about it, but she sort of clammed up. We thought she might have found a boyfriend.
Really?
Well, she was definitely more moody, touchy.
It's often a sign, in my experience.
But she never mentioned a boy or met one as far as you know?
No, I'm sure we'd have known. She didn't go out to meet him anyway.
Can you be sure?
Well, she was only ever out on Saturdays at the job. Oh, I suppose I'll have to tell Mr. Brandon at the bookshop.
There's no need. I'll arrange for one of my officers to call there and at the school.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Well, perhaps we'd better start to look through...
If there's any letters or anything, they'll be in her desk.
Is it locked?
No. She didn't need to lock anything. We never interfered, poked our noses.
I'm sure. I'd say Moira couldn't have asked for better.
We did our best. We give her opportunities without some bastard.
We'll find him, Mr. Gale. Be sure of that. Right, Abbott, if you start with the wardrobe, I'll have a...
Look, I'm sorry, do you mind if I leave you to it? I don't think I could...
Of course. If we need to take anything away, we'll give you a receipt.
Oh, take what you want. She'll never need him again, will she? I'll just look in on the wife, make sure she's asleep. They gave us some tablets.
Of course.
I'll be downstairs if you need me.
Poor devil. Decent sort, sir, wouldn't you say?
Very. Bit odd, though, wasn't it?
What?
I got the feeling he was talking about a lodger rather than a daughter.
Oh, I don't know. Still in a state of shock.
Right, let's get on.
Right.
Tidy, girl. No clutter.
There's some very smart gear here, sir. It's expensive looking.
Really? Probably saved up from the Saturday job.
Yeah, I suppose so, but... Yeah, look at this.
More of them.
Well, what?
Cuttings. Magazine articles. All about the royal family.
Yeah. Yeah, there are pictures in a book here, too. Princess Di, Fergie, all of them. It's a bit unusual in a teenager, isn't it?
Now, this is really odd. Come over here a moment, Abbott.
What's that, sir?
This tin box in the drawer was hidden by all the cuttings.
What about it, sir?
Locked.
Oh.
Well, Abbott, what do you think she wanted to keep from prying eyes?
Money?
Well, I'm afraid we'll have to find out. There'll be a key somewhere.
What they usually do is sellotape it somewhere out of sight. Here we are, sir.
I'm impressed, Sergeant. Now, let's see. I don't know if this is going to help much, but... just... wait a minute. This is not at all what I expected.
I know she saved bits and bobs from her job and what we gave her, but £400? Where did you get that?
The passbook shows several sizable entries. £50 in January, 175 in March, another £100 just a week or so ago.
How could she... Did you say 175? When was that?
The 10th of the 3rd, March this year. Have you remembered something? Something that might explain where she got this sort of money?
So it was her. I thought so, but I didn't want to believe it. Put it out of my mind. I suppose I shouldn't say it, but I never did trust her. Never saw her about her from the beginning. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean, but...
What didn't you want to believe, Mr. Gale?
Would you like a cup of tea?
No, thank you. What didn't you want to believe?
My wage packet went missing. Just before Easter it was. I could have sworn I brought it home, but in the end the wife persuaded me I must have lost it at work or something.
And it was about that amount?
That's what I get, £175.
Just before Easter, sir. That would be before Moira's trip to Guernsey. Perhaps she needed some new clothes.
She didn't need anything. We gave her everything.
I'm sure you did, Mr. Gale. But the other amounts, you can't explain those. Please forgive this question, Mr. Gale. It must seem rather personal, but was Moira your daughter?
No, she wasn't. Well, not exactly. But we loved her as if she was our own.
I'm sure you did. Did she know she was adopted?
Oh, yes. The wife told her when she was about 10.
Did she know who her real parents were?
No. She was abandoned, just a few days old.
So really she was able to imagine anything she liked, even that she might be related to royalty?
Oh, that, yes, that was a sort of family joke. Wife used to call her our little princess when she was a toddler. I've forgotten.
But I don't think Moira had, Mr. Gale. I don't think it was a joke to her.
Yes, that's right. Check the hotel and all the names I gave you between the 23rd and 31st of March. 23rd and 31st of March. And make it quick. Thanks.
And did you also ask them to try the number the school secretary gave you?
Yes, sir. They'll put this Steve Leighton through here if they contact him.
Good.
It's got to be a long shot, sir. Guernsey in the same place at the same time.
But it would make sense. Bring the whole thing together. It would be the coincidence which links all the others. It doesn't strike me as impossible that Moira met someone in Guernsey who ties her in with Coriston.
But it could just as easily have been Reading. I mean, those two boys that were expelled, for instance. We know one of them lives in Pangbourne. That's not far from Reading.
I don't think so. You heard what Mr. Gale said. She didn't have a social life outside home.
With respect, sir, there was quite a lot that poor Mr. Gale didn't know about Moira.
I grant that.
For a start, he didn't know she was a thief. And not just from him, either. We know what Mr. Brandon said in the bookshop. It must have been her. They're checking it up in Reading, but I don't reckon there's any doubt.
Certainly it would explain the £50 deposit with the Building Society. That's what Brandon believed his missing first edition to be worth. But what about the £100 in July?
You think that was payment in advance, don't you? Money to set up Royston.
Looks very much like it. She seemed to fantasize that she was well connected. Royal blood, even. I think she was determined to improve herself. She had the imagination to play a part. She almost convinced me. And we know she wouldn't have been restrained by moral scruples if she could steal from her father.
So she looks the part and will do most things for money.
It fits. X, the unknown party, bribes Moira to fix Royston. It's highly probable that X is connected with Coriston and that Moira is just part of a vendetta which has hounded Royston all term. Ever since his marriage.
You now think the marriage is part of all this?
Or is that just another coincidence? How many of those incidents at Coriston were manufactured? And how many spontaneous? Ah, yes. Put him through, please. Steve Leighton. This might help us find out, Abbott. Hello. Thank you for calling, Mr. Leighton. I'm sorry to trouble you in the holidays. I'm investigating... Oh, you've seen the papers. Well, in that case... No, of course not, Mr. Leighton. But I do need your help about an earlier incident involving cannabis. No, I'm not concerned at this stage with that offense. But there is something I'd like you to tell me.
I just needed to get away. I stayed in a small hotel in Oxford. That's all,
And
Superintendent.
presumably they'd remember you at this small hotel.
I'm sure they would if you
I
telephoned.
expect so, sir, yes. So what brought you back, Mrs. Royston?
I realized how much I miss Hugh, particularly when I heard the trouble he was in.
How did you know there was trouble? There's nothing in the papers at that stage.
Shopping in Oxford, I bumped into Helen Quarry. Pure coincidence.
Another one. But do go on. You met Mrs. Quarry, you say?
Yes, and she told me what had been happening.
And Mrs. Quarry was the only person you met in Oxford?
What do you mean?
I must put this to you. Did you perhaps also meet Moira Gale in Oxford?
Oh,
You knew your
Superintendent.
husband would be at the conference, the car he was driving.
This is absurd.
It's all right, Hugh. No, Superintendent, I did not meet Moira Gale. Then or on any other occasion.
Thank you, Mrs. Royston. And you can confirm that your husband left the house at about 11:45 this morning?
Yes.
And you think the phone call, the anonymous one, was about 9 o'clock?
Yes, about then. Hugh said it was a wrong number.
A pity.
I have explained to you. I can see now I was wrong, but I panicked. I thought if I went to meet her, I could sort everything out, find out who was behind it all.
What a pity you didn't contact us, sir. Moira might be alive now.
You think I haven't told myself that 100 times? I thought I could deal with it. I daren't risk more publicity. I didn't know if it was Moira on the phone. The voice was heavily disguised.
But the voice was female. You're sure of that?
I'm not sure of anything anymore. But yes, I think so.
And you thought if it were Moira or someone acting on her behalf, something useful might come out of the meeting?
At least I'd know what was behind it all. Then I would have been able to come to you. The last thing I expected was to be faced with Moira's body.
And you panicked again, you see. Just drove off.
I'm not completely stupid, although I begin to wonder now. I knew that if I was found there with the body, I could see there was nothing I could do for her. Well, perhaps to run away wasn't very rational, but I wasn't thinking clearly. As soon as Sergeant Court came here, I told him everything, just as I told you. I know how it must look, Superintendent.
That'll be my sergeant. Excuse me.
Sorry, darling.
Good. Come through then.
Yes, sir, it's all there. And the results of the post-mortem.
Thank you. I won't be long. I'll meet you at Mr. Quarry's house.
Right, sir.
Right, Mr. Royston. I shall have to ask
I
you...
was expecting it. You would allow me to call my solicitor?
I don't think that will be necessary for the moment.
Oh?
I was going to say I shall have to ask you for your assurance that you will not be leaving Coriston without informing me.
Of course. Thank you, Superintendent. Does that mean...
Could I ask you just one final question?
Yes?
Have you ever been to Guernsey, Mr. Royston?
What a strange question.
And your answer?
Yes, I've been there once or twice.
But not at Easter this year?
No.
And you, Mrs. Royston? Have you ever been to Guernsey?
Never.
Perhaps you should get your husband to take you there. Would that be a good idea, Mr. Royston? Now, I must go and talk to Mr. and Mrs. Quarry.
Look, I don't
What
know
has Guernsey got to do with this, Superintendent?
Everything, Mrs. Royston. Everything.
It was pure coincidence. As I've explained to Sergeant Abbott, I was going into the supermarket as Sylvia was coming out, exactly as she said.
And I've also given your sergeant details about Easter holiday, though what that's got to do with anything,
Yes, Mrs. Quarry managed to get away for a few days to stay with friends, but Mr. Quarry...
I know everyone thinks teachers have long holidays to swan around.
I'm sure you work very hard, Mr. Quarry. I mean, you're still here now, and we're well into the holidays.
Exactly.
And this morning, Mr. Quarry. Were you busy with school matters this morning?
There's no need to be subtle, Superintendent. It doesn't suit you.
Mr. Quarry said...
What do you mean, says?
That he went into Coriston for some shopping soon after breakfast and came back about 10 o'clock.
I see. And presumably Mrs. Quarry was here, so she can...
Well, not all of the time. It was such a lovely morning that I went for a long walk.
But you met people, I dare say.
Well, I'm not sure that I did. I kept well away from the roads.
Really?
Look, I appreciate that this is a very serious business and you have to ask your questions, but you can't for one moment think...
What can't I think?
No, it's all right,
Quarry?
John. I'm sorry, Superintendent, but this business has placed us all under a great strain.
I understand, Mrs. Quarry, and I hope we shall have it all cleared up very quickly now.
Oh, really? Look, I'm sorry I lost my temper. Can I ask, Superintendent, purely from the school's point of view, whether you will need to take Mr. Royston...
No. Mr. Royston can continue with his duties here, as far as I'm concerned.
Good. Oh, that's excellent. We were afraid that... Well, that really is good news.
I expect it is. Am I right, Mr. Quarry?
Indeed. And I've got more good news for him.
What's that?
You know about the pregnancy business.
The Hillmore girl, yes.
Well, I had a letter from the parents this morning. The girls told them everything. The father, some wretched cousin who stayed with them during the Easter holidays. They absolve us from all blame.
Even from leaving gin bottles lying about?
Well, that was hardly our fault, was it?
No, I suppose not. Anyway, that will be reassuring for Mr. Royston.
Well, thank you for your time. I'm sorry to have kept you, busy school teachers. Still, you have got another 6 weeks to recover. Excuse me, but this photograph, when was it taken?
That one? The beginning of term party. Hugh gave one to introduce us all to Sylvia. We all look so cheerful there, don't we?
Are all the staff on it?
Yes, I think so. You got us all to pose together. Stupid, really, but we'd all had a few drinks. I can't think why you've got it framed, Helen. We all looked...
We all looked so happy. It's a rare sight.
May I borrow it?
What is that for?
Abbott will let you have a receipt.
No, take it. Keep the damn thing. As far as I'm concerned, it's not exactly an occasion, as it turned out, that any of us want to remember.
He was certainly surprised you weren't taking Royston in. So am I, as a matter of fact, sir.
But neither of you had seen the autopsy report.
How does that clear him?
Time of death. Moira's aunt says the girl left the house soon after 9, after a substantial breakfast.
I see. Stomach contents.
It helps them fix time of death pretty accurately. Moira had been dead a couple of hours when she was found, and Royston and Sylvia have alibis for each other.
Right. What else did they come up with?
No sign of a struggle, which suggests Moira knew who it was who strangled her.
But
if it's not expected, it's easily done. Hands round the throat, she was only a wisp of a thing. No great strength was necessary.
So it could have been a man or a woman?
Oh, no. I'm sure it was a woman.
Really? Why?
The whole business has the hallmark of the little green-eyed monster, jealousy, or bitter resentment. Resentment against Hugh Royston.
But there were plenty of men who resented him. John Quarry, the boys,
the use of Moira, the poison pen note, the sexual element is very strong. This is sexual jealousy.
It could be hard to prove. Just a theory.
But now we have the evidence from Guernsey. I knew we'd find a connection.
But it just confuses things until we can get a proper identification. I suppose that's why you took the photograph?
Yes. But I'm pretty sure I know.
How could you be in 2 places at once and by herself?
What are you talking about, Abbott?
You told me the hotel in Guernsey recognised one name on the list we sent them. Or rather the same name, but not the same sex.
Correct. They had a guest staying there between those dates who signed in as Mrs. Royston. And she was known to them. Had been there on previous occasions.
But Sylvia Royston was on her honeymoon in France. I suppose Guernsey isn't too far away from France.
I see your confusion, Abbott. You're imagining it was our Mrs. Royston who was at the hotel.
Of course. You're telling me it wasn't? Then who was it? Not his mother, sir, I suppose?
No, not his mother, Abbott. Turn right at the next crossroads. I think that's what Miss Bell said. The lane should be on the left, almost immediately. She said we can take a car down.
When did you speak to her? She wasn't in the office when I was.
She arrived just as I was leaving to walk across to the quarries.
So she hadn't been in this morning. Not like our school secretary to be away from work, is it?
She told me she was packing up to move into this cottage.
And you believed her, sir?
Here's the lane coming up. We turn off.
I mean, it could be her. If your theory is right, she's jealous of Sylvia,
Yes,
all right?
but I don't see her as Royston's mistress. There's no sexual motive, not with her. She's just protecting the school. And coincidence, I told you, it can never be discounted. But not a whole chapter of coincidence.
I'm not with you, sir.
Think about it, Abbott. Who suggested Mrs. Royston took the minibus?
But that was an accident, wasn't it?
Yes, but wishful thinking, possibly. And then the rumours. Somebody amplified those. And the same somebody, knowing poor Jane Hillmore's fondness for gin, gave her the opportunity to take more.
And what Steve Layton told you on the phone this morning...
Yes. He only told one person. And I don't doubt the same person wrote the anonymous note to Lord Penmerrick. Turn right at the barn. We're nearly there.
Sir, that car parked up ahead.
Stop. How long will it take the others to get here?
They'd have to round up a forensic team, a WPC. But I told them to step on it. Another 10 minutes, I reckon.
Right. Good. We'll walk the rest of the way. Nice summer's day, windows open. Voices might carry Abbott. Particularly if they're raised.
As soon as he asked about Guernsey and whether I'd been there this Easter, I began to see. It had to be you. I didn't want to think it, Paula.
How did you think I felt in that cosy hotel? Everyone calling me Mrs. Royston, remembering us from our previous visits. When's your husband coming?
You knew I wouldn't come. It was all over, I told you.
But I didn't believe it. Didn't want to believe it, I suppose. That you were just using me until you found some insipid little virgin who'd be better for your image. Always promising a wedding, weren't you? But it never materialized, did it? I should have realized I wasn't quite good enough for you. Not quite young enough. Not quite respectable enough. Yes, I should have known you were using me for just one thing.
Paula!
And the trouble you took to make sure your mucky little affair was our secret. God knows it was hard enough to keep it quiet in that bloody hothouse you run.
When I think of Frances Bell poking her nose into your business, and John Quarry just waiting for you to slip up so that he could step into the job he always thought should be his. Well, he doesn't have to wait much longer, does he? You're finished, Hugh.
It was you, then. Everything that went wrong. You're evil, Paula. To destroy me, perhaps I can understand that, but Moira Gale, what had she done?
She was convenient. I came across the stupid little fool in Guernsey while I was waiting for you. Appropriate, wasn't it? She seemed at a loose end, too. A loner. She bored me to tears with her pathetic fantasies, her plans to better herself. But I knew she'd do anything for money. When I needed someone, I thought of her. I remembered she had an aunt near here. I knew about your silly conference in Oxford. It wasn't hard to fix. You see, she had a vivid imagination, Hugh. She still thought I was Mrs. Royston, and I told her you'd been playing about with other women, threatening our marriage. I wanted to get my own back and warn you off at the same time.
And she believed you?
She was only 15. I thought she'd swallow it. And there was the money, of course. But I misjudged her.
How?
She must have found out in the village about Sylvia, the real Mrs. Royston. So she telephoned, demanded more money, threatened to tell the police the truth.
And you killed her. Then tried to involve me. That was you, wasn't it, on the phone? The disguised voice? But it was a voice I knew. I couldn't place it at the time.
Yes, it was me. But who'll prove it, Hugh? Your word against mine. And who'll believe you? A child molester? A failed headmaster?
Good afternoon, Miss Danby. The front door was open, so we came in some time ago. It seemed a pity to interrupt your very lucid flow.
So it was all a trap. You brought the police with you. I should have expected that from you.
That's enough, Mr. Go on. Go on, Dennis.
Not that it matters, Miss Danby, but Mr. Royston did not bring us. I would have come anyway. I've suspected you for some time.
How could you?
Too many coincidences. And the sexual jealousy. A woman roused and then scorned. There weren't too many candidates for that role at Coriston. You fitted the profile, Miss Danby. The right age, the right looks, the right temperament, and all the opportunities you needed to destroy the man who discarded you.
Theories, Superintendent. Just theories. Your eavesdropping won't help you. That's not evidence, and you know it.
There'll be no shortage of evidence. I imagine the staff at the Guernsey Hotel will recognize you from the photograph we'll send down the wire. And poor Moira. You can't strangle someone with your bare hands without leaving tissue traces. Unique to you, Miss Danby. No, I don't believe we'll lack evidence. Abbott, in your experience, what does a murderer try to do after committing the crime?
To get away as far as possible, sir.
Was Australia going to be far enough, Miss Danby? In a few minutes, Miss Danby, you will be taken to Oxford and charged formally.
Superintendent, do I have to stay?
No. We'll take statements from you later.
Paula.
Get out! I don't need your sympathy. You'll never understand, Hugh, will you? I loved you, and you left me for a woman not fit to be near you, let alone be your wife. You did that to me. Just get out! Go!
Yes, please leave now, sir. Go back to your wife, Mr. Royston, and your school. There'll be a trial and a lot of bad publicity. But with luck, you might survive. You've certainly been more fortunate than poor little Moira Gale.
John Castle played Detective Superintendent Thorne, and John Sampson, Hugh Royston, in Mortal Term, which was dramatized for radio by Melville Jones, from the novel by John Penn. John Quarry, James Green, Helen Quarry, Penelope Lee, Mark Joyner, Stuart Organ, Frances Bell, Oriel Smith, Sylvia Royston, Victoria Carling, Paula, Elizabeth Mansfield, Steve, Jonathan Tapler. Pearson, Paul Downing, Geary, Stephen Garlick, Detective Sergeant Abbott, Andrew Branch, Sergeant Court, Ian Lindsay, Jane Hillmore and Moira Gale, Jane Whittenshaw, and Mr. Gale, David King. Mortal Term was directed by Martin Jenkins.